Welcome to the Plymouth Area Chamber of Commerce's Legislative Breakfast Discussion and Debate. We have a packed program which we need to keep on schedule, and we thank the candidates for participating and all of you for being here. I'm your moderator, Julie Thompson. I was previously the executive director of PAC TV, which is now the local scene, and I am a proud member of the Chamber of Commerce's Board of Directors. Our objective is to bring another opportunity for you, the business owners, leaders, and contributors to get a snapshot of the candidates in our area that are running for state rep in the 1st, 6th, and 12th districts, for state senate in the Plymouth and Barnstable County, and for Plymouth County Commissioner. All of our candidates for these races are here today except Greg Hanley, who is a candidate for re-election for County Commissioner, and he apologizes for his absence. He had a conflict. As always, we implore you to educate yourself about the candidates and their positions. There have been multiple forums, discussions, interviews, and sources that you can go to do just that. The candidates themselves have websites and social media presence. WATD with Christine James, the League of Women Voters, who will have their final forum next Thursday evening at Plymouth Town Hall. The local scene, PAC TV, is here today filming this, and they also just released their Questions for the Candidates videos. The Plymouth Independent, our local online news source, will be doing a comprehensive election preview, and the candidates themselves are always out in their districts, almost on a daily basis, door knocking, meet and greets, fundraisers, etc. Because the Chamber of Commerce has coordinated and is sponsoring this forum, we will lean more towards questions that affect our local businesses. We are not asking for opening statements, as that information is readily found on the candidates' websites and social. We have allotted time for the candidates, however, to make closing statements. They're also been given some indication of the subjects that we'll be covering, and they will have the opportunity to directly question their opponent on a subject of their choice on which they have differing views or perspectives, so they can debate each other on the subject of their choice. We have a timer in the back of the room that will allow myself and the candidates to know that we are on schedule. And we're not timing the individual answers, but I'm going to keep an eye on how long people talk, because we want to get as much content in as possible. The only thing that will be timed is the closing statements. We want to sincerely thank our supporting sponsors, the ARC of Plymouth and Upper Cape Cod, Cape Cod Community College, Tiny & Sons Glass, Riptide Autonomous Solutions, and our media sponsor, the local scene. Our friend sponsor is the New England Village. Thank you all very much for your support. You play a crucial role in making this possible. So, without further ado, we're going to bring up our first set of candidates for the 6th Plymouth District, Democrat Becky Coletta and Republican Ken Sweezy. Becky over here, Ken over here. Okay, we're going to start this off in alphabetical order, and then we'll just go back and forth on who will answer the question first or who will present first. Closing remarks will be opposite of whatever the opening remarks were. So, Becky, you're going to be ending up starting this one. So we're going to start with the first question, which is this. Workforce development and retention are ongoing concerns for small business owners. How would you address the skills gap and ensure that small businesses have access to a qualified, well-trained workforce? Becky.
So last year I worked for the Committee on Labor and Workforce Development and took a leave of absence as counsel to that committee to run for this campaign. So a lot of it is about training. We have a lot of apprenticeship and workforce development programs, including through Mass Hire, who's here today. And that is a huge resource for our region. And when we look at Mass Hire, I think sometimes we think in terms of entry-level skills, but the other thing that Mass Hire really helps us with are transitioning mid-career decision-making and training and getting new skills. If you lose a job and you need to find new skills to get a new job, Mass Hire helps with that. So I think that there is a role for us in government to help to do some of the training so that particularly when we look at small businesses, I've had my own small business I was on the board of the South Shore Women's Business Network for many years, and I've also worked in my father's small business. And I know that sometimes you don't have the resources in a small business, which is a big driver of our economy here on the South Shore. And MassHire is one of those resources that you can go to help to train your workforce. Apprenticeship programs for plumbers, electricians, our trades. When you look at the demographics, I was at an event at MassHire last year for the committee, and we were looking at what happens over the next 10 or 15 years to the trades in our area. And when you start to look at what it's going to cost to build, to construct, to hire workers in those fields, it's getting worse because we have an aging population in the trades, and we need to get more apprenticeship and training in the trades so that the construction industry doesn't fall apart around here. And it's also about housing, which I think we'll talk about more later.
Yes.
But it's making sure that our workforce has housing that they can afford so that you don't have to pay through the roof, so that someone can afford to live here and work for you.
Thank you, Becky. Ken, same question.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming out. Thank you to our hosts. My family operates a small business as well over in Whitman, Sweezy Fence, so seasonal work as well, working with your hands and understanding that this sort of turnover in the workforce is going to be a really, really big problem. And I agree that looking at it with a longer runway is really the way to go about it. I think right now the biggest thing that we can be doing to solving this problem holistically is looking at that entry level. Looking at VOTEC education in particular, I think is of special interest here in Massachusetts. My opponent just alluded to the aging population. I believe the average tradesman or union member is about mid-50s at this time. So what we really need to do is make sure that at the start, at the beginning of the career, to make sure these positions are ready to backfill now. We have a couple years of play here before everybody starts to retire in the trades. We have really amazing VOTEC programming in this state. We're very lucky that our VOTEC schools are of very high quality. You see a South Shore VOTEC going through a building expansion, going from about 600 plus students to 900 students, a lot of buy-in from neighboring communities. Great example over in Pembroke, they have the option coming up to join the school district, and I think this is something that the state really needs to assist with. VOTEC education, unfortunately, is a really big cost, and it falls to the towns to join these member districts. So I think if we have the opportunity at a state level, the representative, whatever it may be, to supplement this funding mechanism when they go to build these new schools that South Shore Tech needs in order to make sure that we have these tradesmen, we need to make sure that someone who's coming in like a Pembroke isn't stuck with this upfront cost. So I really see that as the biggest issue that needs to be addressed initially to make sure that in 5-10 years, as we start to lose these highly skilled jobs and labor force, that we don't add to a problem that's already compounding.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to have the opportunity where you can, and we're going to start with Ken, you're going to identify a subject or something where you have different views or perspectives, and you're going to debate it between each other. So what subject do you and Becky not necessarily agree on? And let's have a debate.
Sure. I think that we disagree on how to go about and how to address immigration. I'm sure that this is an issue that everybody's going to want to talk about. So.
Okay, so what is your stance that you disagree with Becky?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think right now what we're dealing with in immigration is an immediate problem. You know, we're spending, for everybody who's not aware, the budget allocated last year over $1 billion in the last fiscal year in this state. Next year, and the fiscal year that's already begun, they've allocated another $1 billion. Not only that, but they're forcing people into these tough situations, housing and hotels and everything, right here up the street in Kingston, that's putting cost on the taxpayers in town. They're making the towns allocate funds for these increased police calls, increased fire calls, students going into the schools that the elected leaders were just not ready for. This is putting a big strain on our towns, a massive financial strain on our state, and I think that there's a couple common sense things that have already been offered up when people are not having honest conversations about it. I mean, we have some people in the room that have offered up amendments so that we could put residency requirements to make sure that our right to shelter law that's supposed to be helping our most vulnerable residents, helping veterans and families, no fault evictions, whatever it may be that forced people into a homelessness situation is being addressed and being helped. A law that we've had on the books for many years and has operated really well is now being abused and used as a magnet to draw people into this state. It's just one of the many things that's bloating our budget, that's making it a less friendly business environment with the taxing and regulation that goes on in this state. And I really think that the spigot needs to be cut off. We really need to stop the in-migration of immigration into our state and make sure that our tax dollars are not being funneled into these programmings right now.
Okay, Becky, point counterpoint.
So quick is hard, really quick. So the issue is that my opponent doesn't say what happens if you limit right to shelter. What happens afterwards? The problem with right to shelter is a financial one this year. It will not be the same next year. We've taken already some steps. Right now, when we started to limit right to shelter, we're seeing families starting to live in T stations with no place to go as we get into winter. So we have people here. Was right to shelter perhaps a magnet to get more people here? Perhaps. But when we were on the committee last year, we looked at, okay, workforce development. People are screaming for people to hire, particularly for like entry-level positions and labor, a lot of different positions that people were looking to hire. And we said, we can put them to work. We can get them into training programs. And the answer was, you know what, you can't. Because when immigrants come to this country and they are given legal status through something like a political asylum or a protected class, they're not given a right to work. In fact, under the current law, they can't even apply for a right to work for 180 days after they enter this country. So you want to know why it's so expensive for us and for every other state in this country? It's because our federal policy has failed us, and we need to get solutions at the federal level. And we need the federal border control to match the federal expenditure. So you need to align those incentives so that the people who are causing the issue are paying for the issue. And that will give an incentive for people to fix the border. There was an attempt to fix the border in February that got squashed. I think it'll get fixed after November when it's no longer a political football. And I think what we're going to see is that that bill, one of the things it would have done was take from 180 days to 90 days, cut in half the amount of time before someone can apply for a work permit. So what you're saying is you're going to have someone come into this country, be permitted to enter this country, be given no legal right to work, and no assistance with shelter. So we're going to have people starving in this country? Like, there's no easy solution. What we did in this state, what Maura Healey did when she started to grab her arms around this and she said, okay, I can't affect federal policy. What I can do is I can take $25, $30 million and put it into helping people in the shelters quickly get their information together to apply for work permits so that these people can get to work for you. And the time period between the federal and state efforts, it used to take the 180 days to apply and then up to 9 months to actually get authorized to work legally. And if you work under the table, you risk deportation and your application being thrown out and being sent back.
Okay, thank you.
So one more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
It's really important, Julie, because no one talks about work authorizations.
Okay.
And this is a really important factor as to how expensive it is. That 9 months plus 180 days is already brought down to 2 months to process an application because the applications are being fixed and the workflow is being handled with more resources. So we brought it down to 2 months. If we fix it at the federal level, we'll at least bring it back down to 90 days based on the bipartisan agreement. And then we can get people to work, and we won't be fighting between the states about, you know, you take them, you take them, you take them. We're one United States, and we need to fix this as one United States.
Ken, 30 seconds.
Yeah, the only
counterpoint.
thing I'd like to throw back right there is it's a little disingenuous to say that we're trying to rip this housing away and everyone's going to be sleeping in T stations. 50 states, United States, we're the only state with a right to shelter law. So every other state has a handle on this problem. No other state is spending $2 billion plus the unrealized cost of municipalities and counties on this issue. So to say that the right to shelter is not needing of any sort of revision with any residency requirement or anything like that, I just think is a little bit disingenuous because we're the only state with it, and that's allocating this level of funding towards it. There's plenty of solutions.
Julie, I didn't say that there's no fixes for right to shelter. We've already made some fixes to right to shelter. I don't want to see us fighting between states for how to take care of people. I want the federal government to fix this, and I want us to do what we can in a low unemployment state to put these people to work.
Okay, thank you. And this is an issue that every single one of our candidates has identified as something that they feel passionately about. So you'll probably hear this from other groups of candidates tonight, and as you can see, there's no real answer right now. There's a bunch of different solutions or suggestions, and to be continued on this subject. Now, Becky, you can select a subject that you disagree with or have a different perspective with, other than immigration, to talk to Ken about. Go ahead.
So I want to talk about affordability in housing. There's a lot of talk about MBTA communities, and there's a lot of misinformation about MBTA communities. We have 5 towns in our district that all take very different positions on MBTA Communities Act, and it's interesting to see that some towns think, oh, it's going to bring all low-income people or migrants to our district. Other people think it's going to be all high-end housing and it's not going to solve our affordability issues. The reality is that MBTA communities it was modeled on this idea that you deregulate, right? You lift zoning obstacles and you let the private market take over, and they'll build hundreds of thousands of homes, and the supply-demand curve will change in our state. We're a very attractive state. People like to be here. That's why we want to be here, right? You build your business in Mississippi, it's going to be a very different profile than building your business in Massachusetts. And so while you're looking at that, the issue that was being identified by Charlie Baker and other people in around 2015, 2016, was that this housing crunch was making us less attractive to business. Because if you have to pay through the roof for someone to afford to live here, you might want to be somewhere else, despite our skilled and educated workforce. So if you look at this, the question, if you get rid of MBTA and say, I don't like the fact that it doesn't have a lot of local control. I spent 6 years in the Pembroke Planning Board. I'm currently president of the Old Colony Planning Council. I believe in planning. I believe in local planning. I believe in housing production plans. Duxbury is doing a lot of great work on age-friendly communities and trying to look at what we really want and need in our communities. Saying no development at all is not going to solve the fact that our disability service providers right now have around 16-17% of their workforce for direct service positions that are unfilled. I was talking to someone who runs a nonprofit.
Okay, we're gonna have to stick it back to the MBTA communities. And how do you disagree? How does your opponent disagree with you on that?
I don't think he has a solution beyond MBTA communities is really bad. What we need to do is start to do the work. This job is about doing the work of saying what is actually going to fix our affordability and our housing issues. And I think we go back to the state and say our towns want to be part of the solution, and this is how we're going to be part of the solution, through our housing production plans. You go to the state with a solution, not just a no.
Okay, thank you. Point, counterpoint.
Well, first of all, our last 2 forums, my opponent said she was against MBTA zoning as well, so I'm a little confused about where we disagree on there. But I will just briefly say that, yes, I am a no on MBTA zoning, and I really don't think that there's a mix of opinions on the district. For those of you that don't know, this regulation is proposing mandating zoning in your towns that is 15 units per acre. Very high density relative to what we have down here. People move to these towns, live in these towns, stay in these towns for a reason, because they're a great place to live, they're very safe, they're great to work in, raise your family in, have kids, the schools are all amazing. So to change this artificially and change the character of our towns is not good. So yes, I'm a no on that, and it's not mixed opinion. Hanson has rejected it, Marshfield has rejected it. I have a very strong opinion that Halifax and Duxbury are both going to reject it in their town meetings in November and December respectively as well. 80% then of our towns will have rejected MBTA zoning. This is a loud no, not from me. We're here to be state representatives and represent the voice of our constituents, and that's what I'm doing. This isn't some opinion that I just woke up with one day. So we're going to be the only state rep district that has that percentage of our municipalities rejecting it. So I think that's a mandate to go to the State House with a no. As far as solutions, affordability is holistic. It's not just the sticker price for homes and apartments. We've mentioned that there's over-regulation. Everybody in here, all the businesses, you guys all feel that, the tax burden that's here. Like I said, my family owns a small business. It's hard to expand. It's very hard to operate here. Yes, Massachusetts is attractive for a lot of reasons because of our schools, our history and everything, our resources that are here. It's so attractive that 1,100 people a week are leaving Massachusetts. That's how attractive it is. There's a very big problem with the ability for businesses to operate in this state, and if that's not a priority for the next state representative of the 6th Plymouth, then I don't know why we're here talking on this stage. If we're not here to bring the voice of the people up to Beacon Hill, then I don't know why we're here on this stage. That's why I'm a no on MBTA zoning. That's why I take a holistic look to bring taxing down, to bring regulation down. So many things, especially over here in our coastal communities, the way they treat fishermen and lobstermen, which I'm sure we're going to hear more about today as well, is just not right. So there's a lot of work to be done when you look at affordability as a holistic approach.
Thank you. And I assume that both of you on your websites can talk about not only the MBTA Communities Act, but also your ideas for affordable housing, correct?
I
Yes?
talk about it more in these kind of forums where you can actually have a discussion.
Okay.
Websites aren't particularly good for that, and I think this forum is good for that. I still don't hear a solution on housing. I've operated a real estate brokerage for about 7 years, and I'm a real estate attorney now, and I see that people cannot get housing. You cannot address this issue without addressing housing. It's a question of the right housing. This is a great state because we have opportunity here, and housing is a key part of that, and I still don't hear a solution on housing. The deregulation is what MBTA communities was all about. That was the pitch. It was going to deregulate and solve the issue.
So
we need to work and solve the issue.
So do either of you have a specific plan for affordable and/or workforce housing? Yes or no?
Yeah, we have housing production plans that I've worked on in the town of Pembroke that included compliance with the MBTA Communities Act, that were entirely consistent with our own housing production plan. In Duxbury, they have an affordable housing committee. They have a age-friendly community plan that involves housing that people in Duxbury, I went to the presentation, Old Colony Planning Council helped them do that, and I went to the presentation. There are people who are developing actual plans, and there are other people who are saying, any housing is going to destroy who we are. You know what's going to destroy who we are? The fact that now to move into our towns, you have to make something close to $200,000 a year.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to just cut this short because we could go on all day with this subject. Final word? Do you have a plan for housing?
Yes, I'm going to listen to the constituents, listen to the towns. I personally am excited about the accessory dwelling unit by right in this state. There's mixed opinions on it. I think there's a lot of potential there to help individuals, not large developers, hold on to the character of our town.
Okay.
See what else we got.
More to come, I'm sure, on this subject. Thank you. We're going to do the next one. Becky, we'll start with you. And try to keep your answers as brief as possible because then we only have 11 minutes now left for yours.
You've met me, right, Julie?
No, I know, but people need to have answers to a lot of questions. Here's the next one. Plymouth and surrounding towns often identify tourism as its #1 industry. I'm sorry, Ken, you're going to go first on this one. Tourists spend money. Should the promotion of tourism and all the ancillary subject matters that are attached to it and support it be a priority? And what will you do specifically to support tourism? Ken.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be as brief as possible, but there's a couple really big issues here on tourism. So I really believe that, again, the regulation and our businesses are being really hurt. In the 6th Plymouth particularly, which again is Duxbury, Pembroke, Hanson, Halifax, part of Marshfield, is really, tourism's a big part. It's very diverse economically. Obviously, you have a lot of coastal and blue economic businesses into inland communities, very diverse economically. So tourism, particularly in Marshfield and Duxbury, is a very big issue in the whole Plymouth area. What needs to be done is we need to protect our legacy character and businesses. For example, one of the issues that is so pressing, if there's any sticker holders for Duxbury Beach in the room, I'm sure you're aware that sticker sales have been cut in half in the last 5 years over in Duxbury, which is really negatively affecting their ability to pay for their lease and their access and their services on Duxbury Beach. If you have half of the people visiting the beach now that you did 5 years ago, what happens to every mom and pop shop, every person who's out of state or in state off of the coast visiting our communities? Tourism in the summer and our amazing natural resources is such a large part of our economic value down here, and if we don't protect that, And again, that is a state regulation. What's happening is they're regulating arbitrarily a bird that's not endangered or protected. So there's federal regulations, again, that we can't do anything about. I'll advocate for as best we can. But there's arbitrary state regulations that is negatively affecting beach access, hurting our tourism, hurting our economic capacity to grow and to thrive, and hurting the people that are already there. And I think what we need is advocacy, and we need someone who's actually on the ground, volunteering, working with those advocates to bring their voice to Beacon Hill.
Thank you. Becky, same question about tourism. Try to make it as brief as possible.
Yeah, so when it comes to the lease turns in Duxbury, we agree. I think we disagree a little bit on how you go about it. I think when you're looking to change a regulation that's going to balance conservation and recreation, you need to build coalitions. Going in there bombastic is not the way to build coalitions. It's working with our fellow state reps like Kathy Lenatra, who's the chair of the Coastal Caucus, that I think Josh helped create the Coastal Caucus, where he said, okay, the coastal communities have very similar issues. How do you get anyone to listen to our issues from the rest of the state? And it's by banding together in a caucus and starting to talk about these problems and building coalitions. That's the kind of work I've done for many, many years.
Okay.
But the other issue is Plymouth. Plymouth is a big driver for the region. So even though Plymouth isn't in my district, I would advocate for Plymouth, because having Plymouth getting tourism resources and tourism dollars is important to our region.
Thank you.
May I 10 seconds, please?
10.
10 seconds. I'd just like to say I'm happy to work across the aisle and build coalitions, but if 85% of the House and 90% of the Senate already has the supermajority and those coalitions already exist, then why hasn't the problem been solved? I don't mind a little bombastic attitude if that's going to actually help the people in Duxbury. So.
Okay, thank you. Next question, and we'll start with Becky. And you really just a one-sentence answer. Massachusetts is one of the few states that currently prohibits businesses from passing credit card processing fee onto their customers, forcing many small businesses to absorb these really high costs. What actions could you take, or what legislation could you support that allows businesses to charge fees for credit card transactions or otherwise help alleviate the financial burden that these fees put on small businesses? Real quick.
I haven't really looked at this issue, but my sister's a massage therapist where credit card processing fees really dip into her ability to make a living. I understand this issue. I've never taken credit cards for my services, partly for this reason. So I think particularly when it comes to higher end services, you're looking at a huge amount for those fees.
The answer is
I would bring in whatever resources we can to allow people to charge for credit card fees.
Okay, Ken?
Yeah, I think we agree on that. It's not great to pass things on to the consumer when we don't have to, but most people are employed in this state by small businesses, and we need to support them.
Okay. We're going to go on to the, one of the ballot questions because there's 5 ballot questions, but one in particular really affects a lot of our small businesses, and that's ballot issue number 5. Now, number 5, if you read, and everybody should read this because they're really confusing, some of the ballot issues, the ballot questions. Ballot question number 5, yes or no, should the minimum wage be increased for tipped workers over the next 5 years? Let's start with Becky, yes or no?
No, it should not. It also involves pooled tips, which is a huge issue when it comes to pooled tips being shared with the back of the house and managers. This issue was actually before the Workforce Development Committee last year. It didn't get through the legislature for good reason, and now it's on the ballot, and I think we should be a no.
Okay, Ken?
Yeah, absolutely not. Read the signs. It hurts small business. It hurts servers. I think most people agree, really enthusiastically ask you to vote no as well on 5.
And the reason that you see so many signs here is the chamber took a stance on this after we heard from a lot of our members. And we, as the board of directors of the chamber, agreed to put out a statement that we support no on question 5. And if you want, we work for the businesses in our area. If you want signs, there's signs available out in the lobby. You can pick one up on your way out. Okay, the next question before we get to closing statements is this one. How many doors did you knock on, and what were the most pressing issues that you found? Did you knock on any business doors? We'll start with you, Ken.
Yeah, so anyone who follows along with the race, we've had a really, really good summer. We started knocking doors way back in the spring in mid-April, and proud to announce, as we did last week, that we've crossed well over 10,000 doors. We're right at about 10,500 doors, of which I've done more than 50%, so about 5,500 doors. A lot of good conversation. I say people, what's good about Massachusetts is people are really plugged in. We have really highly educated voters, really high turnout. So we talked about everything. I mean, everybody has their own issue. I'd say the stuff that goes across all towns. A lot of stuff we talked about. Immigration has been big. MBTA zoning has been big. Affordability has been big. And all the towns have their own particular issues as well. Beach access in Duxbury, which we talked about. VOTEC access in Pembroke. Water infrastructure in Pembroke as well. They still deal with brown water all the time if there's any Pembroke residents here. Something that really needs to be looked at. We also have PFAS contamination. A lot of people are hearing all this scary stuff about federal regulations, that a lot of our wells aren't really going to be drinkable if these regulations go into effect, and the assistance that the state's going to have to do there. So there's a whole host of things that need to be done, and it was a really good conversation. So I was happy to meet everybody at their doors. And
Did you knock on any business doors?
I didn't. I bothered my dad a lot at his office, but that was the only one that I knocked on pretty
Okay.
consistently. So
Becky, same question?
So hi, I have probably knocked fewer than him, although we started knocking in February, probably around 7,000 doors and about 11,000 people. Part of the issue is that I tend to talk a little bit, in case you haven't noticed. And so sometimes I spend a lot of time on one door. And what I find so interesting on the doors is that, yes, you hear the hot button issues, but you also hear people talking about things like reproductive rights and how upset they are at what happened with the Dobbs decision. You also hear people talking about health care and how crazy our healthcare system is down here on the South Shore, about finding primary care workers, primary care doctors, finding mental health workers, and support that they need in their lives. Not just kind of the big issues, but the little personal issues. And in terms of knocking on businesses, I haven't just knocked on doors. I've also gone to everything from the business event in Hanson for the food pantry that we started many years ago when I was, because I have my businesses in Hanson. We have been to chamber events, including some Plymouth area chamber events in Duxbury. I have a lot of business supporters like Peter Brown, who I've spent time talking to, Andrew Sullivan. A lot of business owners in our community are people I have worked with over the last 21 years. And I talk to them all the time, and I've been doing a lot of one-on-one meetings in addition to knocking doors and going to events so that I can have these deep conversations.
So you did knock on some business doors?
By going to the chamber and actually calling people and having individual appointments.
Okay, thank you. We unfortunately are now on to closing statements, and you're going to have 90 seconds. Jake, if you can put 90 seconds on the clock. And we had started the form here with Becky, so we're going to start closing statements with Ken. Ken, you have, wait till you see 90 seconds.
it's like replacement refs working the clock.
Which is 1:30. 1 minute, 30 seconds. And as soon as it hits there, you can start.
Putting through the ringer here.
Yeah. Thank you, Jake. And hit it.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, so much. Plymouth Area Chamber of Commerce, local scene, everybody here for attending. I know it's not easy to pull 3 hours away from your busy days, so I appreciate you being here. I'm running for this seat because I grew up here. I love this area. I love our towns. Grew up in Hanson, live in Pembroke now. I've had a career that's gone from law enforcement. I was a civilian forensic scientist. I've been in the private sector now for years. I'm very proud to say I've been endorsed by the National Federation of Independent Businesses, of which my family has been a longtime member. There's so many issues. We talked about some of our differences here, but there's just a couple philosophy differences. I think for too long, the state, as I mentioned, with these supermajorities, the state believes that it's better off that they have your money instead of you, or that they control what your business does instead of you. And I believe the opposite. I believe that every dollar is going to be better spent by yourself or your business and your family and our towns. So those are the three things that I'm here to support. I'm very proud of the race that we've won. I'm really excited to push through the last 18 days. Early voting, mail-in voting. Early voting starts tomorrow. Mail-in voting has already begun. So for any constituents out there watching or listening, please come grab me by the end before you leave. I love to answer more questions. There's a lot of stuff we didn't get to. But thank you again, and please vote before or on November 5th.
Thank you. And Jake, if you could reset it. And Becky, as soon as you see it on 1:30, you can make your closing statement.
Okay.
So,
So I'm running because I love this district. I've lived, worked, and raised my family in this district for the last 21 years. I'm very grateful for what we have here, and I want to continue to build stronger communities. I've been a business attorney for the last 34 years. I've worked for large businesses building an international satellite network. I've worked for small businesses, including a coastal engineering firm, and I've also run my own business, a real estate brokerage and a local law firm. I have been part of the South Shore Women's Business Network. I've done the work over so many years. When I go to the State House, even this last year when I was there, I would see that when you look at an issue, it's not liberal or Democrat. The reason why so many things stall in the legislature is because you're trying to find something that works for business and works for labor and works for workforce development. You're trying to find that balance that is really going to work for all of us and build stronger communities. You're trying to be a bridge between state government and local government. You're trying to fund things like Old Colony Planning Council that provides direct local technical assistance. You're trying to do the things that support our communities, and you're also trying to help your constituents access services. You're trying to make sure that the state government works for everyone in our district. I want to do the work. I want to bring my lived experience to represent this district, and I hope that I have your vote on November 5th or before. Thank you.
thank you. Thanks to both of the candidates.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, don't fall. Okay, next up, we're going to have the 12th Plymouth District, which is Democrat Kathy Lenatra and Republican Eric Meschino. Eric, you'll be on this side, Kathy over here. If you want one, I can get you one.
No, I'm good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Good morning.
As you can see, we only got to about 5 issues last time. So the more concise you can be with your answers or point people to other places that they can find their answers on your stances, that would be helpful. So we're going to start in alphabetical order, so we'll start with Ms. Lenatra, and we're going to have the same question that we had before. Workforce development and retention are ongoing concerns for small business owners. How would you address the skills gap and ensure that small businesses have access to a qualified, well-trained workforce?
Well, thank you, Julie. Thank you, everybody, for being here. So we have started to address that. The Labor and Workforce Development Committee, they have come up with some grants now for our Labor and Workforce, the Undersecretary for apprenticeships for small businesses, also grants for upskilling your employees. So we have addressed that. We're going to continue to address that. Someone brought up vocational schools. I think it's very important that we look into more vocational programs for our students. Not everybody has that path for the 4-year degree. We do need to get more into the trades and have them as well, be upskilled. And also, we brought in debt-free community college, which is huge. It's a really big thing, and it helps our small businesses as well as our large businesses.
Thank you. Eric, same question?
Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for coming. First thing is the VOTEX. We have to have more kids have access to learning skills, trades. And then I would say, let's cut off the money supply to the kids that are sitting at home who aren't working. There's too many people that don't have to work in this state. I'm looking around this room. You all work, yes? Anybody not work here? Let's cut off the funding to the people who aren't working and incentivize them to get a job.
How does that help with workforce development?
VOTEX help.
Okay.
And it incentivizes people to actually go out and work. If we're feeding these people every day, I don't mean to sound cold, but if we're hand feeding these people every day and they don't have to go to work, where's their incentive?
Kathy, do you have any comment on that?
I think investing in our small businesses and investing in debt-free community college is a huge thing, and I think that will incentivize people. The trades actually come into high schools now, and pitch the trade and show their importance of that. As we have mentioned, everyone is starting to get older and they're retiring, and we don't have enough workforce coming into the trades. So I think we need to continue working on that in the legislature, like we have done with the Workforce Development Committee and the Undersecretary of Workforce Development.
Any final thought?
Debt-free college. It's not debt-free. You're paying for it.
Okay, thank you. Second question, and we're going to start this one with Eric. You're going to have the opportunity to directly ask your opponent about a subject matter that you disagree with her on, and then have a back and forth discussion about the subject matter. Take it away.
Millionaire's tax.
Okay, so what is your position and how do you differ from Kathy Lenatra?
I think it's a foolish policy. Kathy voted for it. It doesn't help our small businesses. I don't think many people realize this, but the majority of millionaires in the country are small business owners. They're you. So Kathy says she supports small business, but on the other hand, she goes out there and hits you with an 80% increase in your taxes. This does not help you hire new people. It does not help you bring in new talent because it costs you folks a lot of money. That's where I stand on this. Get rid of these taxes. This is what cripples this state. Everybody talks about affordability. It's expensive because of the taxes. She mentioned grants a minute ago. Where does the grant money come from? More taxes on you. We want to talk about, Becky actually mentioned deregulation. Let's deregulate. Let's get rid of some of these regulations that are prohibitive on you folks. Are there any builders or contractors in here? Let's see a couple hands. There's got to be somebody. All right. As a percentage of building a new home, what is a percentage of permit cost? You have an idea? Right, and a lot of places, permits and such can cost upwards of 25, 30% of your overall build fee. Let's deregulate that. We don't need a permit a lot of this stuff. Let's get the state out of the way. Get them out of our back pocket. That'll make things more affordable.
Okay, so Kathy, he mentioned the millionaire's tax, deregulation, and affordability. How do you
Sure.
disagree with him?
So the Fair Share Amendment was a ballot question. That was voted on by the Commonwealth, and they voted in favor of that, so.
And that is the millionaire's tax?
Yes,
Okay.
it's called the Fair Share Amendment, and it was on the ballot. It was a ballot question, like we have 5 questions this time. That was one of the questions last time we voted. And that money goes towards transportation and education. Those that are involved in their town and their school committees know what that school budget is like that we've been tackling and struggling with, especially this last year. This helps with that. What it also does is it enables our students to have free lunch and free breakfast, which has shown our students to become much more happier in school. Their attitudes are better and they're learning more.
Okay. You may, 30 seconds.
The people of the 12th Plymouth District voted clearly that they did not want the millionaire's tax. Kathy ignored her constituents, and she voted in favor of it anyways. So, what's your fair share? What's your fair share? This is a nonsense question. It's another way of saying Marxism or communism. Kathy, what's your fair share?
So again, I'm just going to clarify, that was a ballot question. So it was voted on the ballot.
Right, and there's a clear mandate from your people that said no, but you went to the State House and you voted for it anyways.
Okay.
And yes, and then
We'll
it
just
went
move
to
on.
the ballot.
You want to respond to
No,
that?
no,
Nope?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Kathy, what is a subject you want to debate your opponent on that you have differing opinions upon?
One of the things, there's several things that we disagree on, but one I'm just going to bring up, we were in WATD recently, and it was asked by Christine James or another moderator what you would like to see happen with the Holtec land. And Eric brought up putting up another power plant. So I found that interesting, and I disagree with that. I think that land, we have a right to first refusal here in Plymouth, and I think it could be used for many other things.
Eric?
Again, let's talk about affordability. Energy is behind everything in the state. Nuclear energy, in fact, is the most green energy that we have available to us. We're decommissioning plants around the state constantly. And now we're talking about putting up wind turbines offshore, which, if anybody's paying attention, these things simply don't work. So, yes, the Holtec site was actually designed to carry more than one reactor. They only ever put up one. I know a lot of people aren't fans of nuclear, but it works, it's efficient, it's clean. On the other hand, these wind turbines, they're not even working yet and they're falling apart. They're unreliable. It doesn't matter how many of them that you build. You will always require 100% baseload backup 100% of the time. So we're going to build two forms of power generation? Are we going to put small businesses out of work? And I would like to add to this. There will only be 60 full-time jobs created by this offshore wind boondoggle that will reside in Massachusetts. All the construction workers that are doing this, they're all contract labor that came out of the Gulf of Mexico. They all work for foreign companies. It's a lie on its face, and they're just taking our money again.
Kathy?
I understand that it is clean energy, but I'm talking specifically about the land that the Pilgrim Power Plant is on. We have sea level rise, which would make it extremely dangerous to put another plant there. I would like to see more economic development. There's so many things we could use: open space, economic development, housing. There's so many things that Plymouth could do if they reserve that right for first refusal and they take that right to do instead of putting in a nuclear power plant.
And I have a question. Who would fund the nuclear power plant? Who would put the nuclear power plant up?
Oh, I'm a big fan of free market economy. Let's have somebody come in that can make this thing work and do it, right? So there's competitive advantage, so people have to be held accountable. They have to be money positive. They have to be cash flow positive, as opposed to what we're doing with the offshore wind, which is the state and the federal government coming in and be like, here's all this money. We know it really doesn't work, but just build it. It's a disaster. There's no question. All you have to do is open your eyes and look at it. So I'm also, to go with Kathy, open space would be acceptable to me, but are we really going to put more housing there? We have water shortages in every single town in this community. I know you've all driven around and you see on the streets, water ban, water ban, water ban. And I'm sure we'll talk about MBTA housing. Why are we talking about putting more housing here on the Holtec property when we don't have enough water for the people who are already here and we already have massive infrastructure issues?
Kathy, would you like to respond to that?
No.
Okay. All right, we'll go on to the next question. And we're going to start with Kathy Lenatra. Many small businesses struggle with navigating the state's regulatory environment. What steps would you take to streamline regulations and reduce bureaucratic tape to make it easier for small businesses to start and to grow?
Sure. We have tackled that actually this session as well with our small business committee. We are looking at streamlining. There's so many steps that you need to take when you're a small business, streamlining that online, digitizing things to get your licenses quicker. There's been, again, we're going to talk about grants again, but grants for small businesses that still have not recovered from COVID. So those grants are available to you. There's a lot of things that we have been working on to help our small businesses, and I'm happy to discuss it at a different time because I could go on, but grab me, I'll be here for the rest of the breakfast.
Eric?
Regulations. It's all the regulations that the state keeps hammering small businesses with. That costs them all the money. Let's start to get rid of the regulations that are unnecessary. The state and the federal government were never intended to regulate every aspect of our lives. You know, I grew up, I have this idea of the American dream. You go out, you work your butt off, you make a good life for yourself, you work as hard as you want without really hurting anybody else. I don't need the state to tell me how to do that. And I'm going to go out on a limb and look at the people in this room and say that you don't need the state to regulate your decision-making either.
Kathy, you want to counterpoint that?
I think that the state, and I think we worked very hard to working with our small businesses, especially after COVID. I mean, none of us expected that. And we had some wonderful things that we were able from the federal government and the state government to help our small businesses actually survive during that time. And we realize when something like that happens, our small businesses suffer. So we are putting things into place to make it easier for our small businesses. As it's been said before, they're the backbone of our economy. They're a backbone of the 12th Plymouth District, and we want to see them thrive, and we want to see more businesses come into our towns and come in and thrive here. So, yeah.
Did you fight for the people during COVID? When you were part of the problem, it was partly your policies that shut this state down. There was information out early in COVID from the state of Massachusetts and the health department that it was unnecessary to shut this state down so hard. You're part of the problem. We need people that be up there advocating for the people, to get them out there, to allow them to do what they need to do at all times. Now, during COVID, I was lucky. I was considered an essential employee because of what I do for work. I would drive up the highways in the morning. There was nobody on the road because it was her policies and the federal policies that shut this state down. You should be able to make your own decisions. You want to risk your life and go out and get COVID? Go ahead. It's not her choice, but she didn't fight for me, and she didn't fight for you.
Kathy, would you like to react to that?
I would, yes. You know, I'm very proud of what I did during COVID, along with my delegation. We did a lot to bring, none of us have ever been through that. And first of all, wasn't my decision. It's not all Kathy Lenatra. I don't run the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, for those that don't know. I represent the 12th Plymouth District, and I believe that the delegation in Plymouth did the best that we could for the 12th Plymouth District. I also want to say, with the small businesses, I helped the Chamber. We brought back funds for the Chamber for the One Fund. We brought back funds for Kingston Business Association. We brought back funds for the Downtown Waterfront Committee so they could survive during this terrible time. So honestly, I'm insulted to say that I did nothing during COVID because I worked my ass off during COVID, and I worked it off with Rep. Muratori.
Okay,
Sorry, I didn't mean to swear.
we're gonna go on. Okay, we're gonna go on to the next question. What is the greatest opportunity that is possible in your district, and what plan or proposal will you bring to the table to address this? And we will start with Eric.
The greatest opportunity?
Yep, that's possible. Not the greatest problem or issue, the greatest opportunity.
I think the greatest opportunity is set our workforce free. And again, it all comes back to the same thing. Let's get the government out of our back pocket.
Oh my God.
Small business owners, how do you grow? Where do you become incentivized to risk your own money, your own time, your own blood, sweat, and tears to go to work? This state is overwhelming, again, in terms of its overregulation. I think the biggest opportunity we have is to simply unleash our workforce. I mean, from my perspective, the state tells me I can't even go to work for a certain part of the year. Does anybody here have the state tell you you can't work? Anyone? No? Well, I do, and that's a state policy. And actually is brought in by the Division of Marine Fisheries, who are unelected bureaucrats who don't answer to the public. And Kathy's on the Coastal Caucus. She has no idea what I do for work. For those of you who do not know me, my choice for career is to be a lobster fisherman. I go out there, I'm left alone all day long, you would think, until the state and the federal government come in and try to dictate, once again, how I live my life. And that's not right. And by and large, I'm just going to throw this in there. It's almost 100% unelected bureaucrats who have taken over this country, and we need somebody to fight against that. So I think, again, the biggest opportunity is to unleash our workforce. I'll give you another example. Outside of our district, but in the city of Boston, you want to hang a TV on the wall in a bar room or a restaurant? 10 permits. That's what you need. Does anybody think that sounds reasonable? It's foolish, small laws like that that build up. These are the things we need to get rid of.
Thank you. Kathy, what do you think the greatest opportunity in your district is?
The greatest opportunity right now is tourism. I mean, we are a coastal community. We have a vibrant small business community down in Plymouth, in downtown Plymouth. We're bringing in small cruise ships. We have culture, we have arts, we have everything. It's a great place to live, it's a great place to work, and it's a great place to raise a family. And that opportunity is only growing.
So let me follow up with
Sure.
on tourism. Tourism depends on, obviously, advertising. It depends
Correct.
on getting people to show up. It
Yes.
depends on the infrastructure of travel, of parking, of hotels, of availability. There's so many ancillary subject matters that relate to tourism. Are there any that we're missing? Are there any that we need to work on to make better for tourism to succeed more?
Sure. One that we're working on is bringing a convention center to Plymouth. That will help our small businesses and our economic development during the week, during midweek. We do have it on weekends now, but bringing a convention center, that's people from across the country that will come here and shop here and eat here and stay here.
I think Kathy will agree with me on this. With regards to tourism, one of our biggest issues right now, at least in my mind, is Holtec. We all need to keep them from dumping any of this radioactive wastewater into our harbor. Complete hell no on this 100% of the time. And I guarantee you Kathy agrees on that.
Kathy?
I think everybody in this room agrees on that, correct? Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's talk about when you knocked on doors and when you went out to see people in the neighborhoods. How many doors did you knock on? That seems to be a big thing. But more important to me is, aside from obviously the things that everybody knows that everybody's talking about, affordability, things like that, what surprised you about knocking on doors, and did you knock on any business doors?
Me first, Julie?
Yes, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
sorry.
Kathy.
Yes, so we've been around 6,200 doors that we've knocked on. Business doors, I have to be honest, I shop in the district, I eat in the district. Everything I do is within my district. So I know most of you in this room, I know most of the small business owners, definitely most of the restaurant owners I know, because I'm not a big cook. I don't have time to cook. I shouldn't say that. I'm a great cook, I just don't have time to cook. What was the other part of that question, Julie?
Did anything surprise you?
So yes, well, no. So 85 to 90% of our job as a state representative is constituent services. So we get calls, especially during COVID, we get calls all the time, and we get calls for people, for unemployment issues, for Medicaid issues, for home insecurity, for food insecurity. Our veterans, our seniors, we get calls all the time. And when people call us, it's usually they're at their wit's end and they do not know where to go. And they come to us, and what we do, Chris is here, my legislative aide, he knows too. What we do is we connect them with the services that they need to change their lives. So when I'm at the doors, I'm hearing things like this, personal things. And Becky brought up, they can't find a primary care physician. I mean, that is a real issue. We have primary care physicians that are leaving their profession, they're retiring, we don't have enough young people going into that profession, and trying to find a primary care physician. It's their medication, the cost of their medication. They don't realize that there are ways out there that we can lower those costs. Those are the things that I'm hearing, that I hear every day. We do hear the big things, the big federal things. And one of the things they're asked too is like, why do you do this? How can you do this? And I say, it's not like the federal government. At the State House on Beacon Hill, we do have Republicans and we do have Democrats and we have one unenrolled. We may not agree on everything. We'll debate. We may vote differently. But you know what? We'll have coffee the next morning and we'll discuss it because we get along. We get along. And we know we need to come to the middle to get things done. You don't get things done way over here and way over here. If you want to get things done, you have to come to the middle and you need consensus. And that's what we do in Beacon Hill.
Thank you. Same question to you. How many doors did you knock on? What did you find out?
So I didn't knock on many doors. As a lobster fisherman, when I go to work, I am completely removed from the public. So it's very prohibitive to me to actually knock on doors. It just doesn't work for me. And, another regulation that we have is that it's owner-operator. My boat doesn't get to leave the dock without me on it. So I haven't knocked on a lot of doors, but the doors that I have knocked on, what surprised me the most is the reception of people to the idea of change, that we need a tide change, a sea change in this state to get out of this overwhelming tax burden. That's what really surprised me. People are very welcoming and open to that idea in and of itself. And since you brought up constituent services, this is something I learned about from the outside. I know somebody very well who's like a superstar at constituent services. In fact, there's another guy, he's not here today, Josh Cutler's great at constituent services. So is Matt Moratori. That's why when the selectman from Kingston, which is outside of his district, needs something to get done, she calls Matt because he picks up the phone. She stopped calling Kathy.
Any response to that?
That's interesting because I have conversations with the selectmen from Kingston all the time. But just to go back, we keep talking about taxes. We did this session as well, a major tax break, one that has not been done in decades. And there's many benefits to that, which I won't go into now, but happy to go into later, and I have notes on that if anybody would like copies. And we can go over those tax cuts that are benefits to your small businesses and to you personally and to your parents.
Isn't that kind of talking out both sides of our mouth? Because we got the millionaires tax. Start with getting that gone. Let's get rid of the millionaires tax and set you all free.
So I have one question on taxes that people have asked me. So if we reduce and get rid of a lot of taxes, how do we balance town and state budgets without them? I'll give you 1 minute each. Kathy?
Well, we need taxes, right? We all expect services in our towns. We have to pay our public safety, we have to pay our fire department, we have to pay our town administrators, we have to pay our town clerks. I mean, these are things that we do need. But like everything, there's excessive spending in everything, and things can be cut. But we need taxes to pay our workers.
I agree. We need taxes. There's definitely a call for it. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say you people know how to spend your money better than the state. It's a third-party problem. Third-party payer problem, excuse me. It's not the state's money. It's your money. They go out there. Nobody's holding their feet to the fire on how they spend this money. There's unnecessary bureaucracy. There's tons of waste. And then, Kathy mentions grants time and again. That's already your money. They've taken it from you. They've created a bureaucracy, some administrative body to oversee that same money, and then they dangle it back in front of your face, oh, we'll give it back to you, but it's already less and the strings attached. If you get to keep your own money, you're going to invest it, you're going to spend it locally, and it works its way right back into the economy, where it's supposed to be, not where they tell us it's going to be.
Any response on that real quick? Okay. So this one, I need you to just answer yes or no, and you don't get to comment on it. Ha. All right, so for 3 of the ballot questions,
Yes on the Second Amendment. Protected at all cost.
For the ballot questions. Question number 1, yes or no, should the state auditor have the authority to audit the legislature? Eric.
Elected state auditor, absolutely.
Kathy.
So I can't answer this in one question. The state auditor is a Democrat. We're a Democrat House. I think it should be an independent auditor if we're going to be audited. I think it should be an independent auditor.
So
Elected official.
So you're yes with contingencies. But when you get into the ballot box, you can't do that.
I know.
So will you vote yes or no?
I will vote yes.
Okay, you both vote yes. Question 3, yes or no, should ride-share drivers have the option of joining a union for the purpose of collective bargaining? Yes or no?
Yes.
I don't like it, but they should choose for themselves. So yes.
You're both yes. And question 5, yes or no, should the minimum wage be increased for tipped workers over 5 years? Eric.
Say that again? I'm sorry.
Question number 5, should the minimum wage for...
I thought you said question number 3. You confused me. No, let's leave the tip workers alone.
So you'll vote no on question 5. Kathy?
I will vote no, but can I just say it's very confusing to other people, so please spread the word on the truth. This really does hurt our workers and our small restaurants. Please let your friends know, because it is a confusing question, and when I talk to people about it, they think they're doing the right thing by voting yes. So you really, really, really need to be your own public servant on that and preach from the mountains.
100% what Kathy just said.
Okay.
100% agree with that.
Great. I'm going to ask you a question that you have to just answer with one word, and you don't get to explain again before we
sorry.
go into closing statements. I love this power. Okay. When it comes to voting for any elected office whatsoever, is the person or the party more important? Kathy?
Person.
Yes. Depends.
No? Yeah. Person or party?
Person over
Yes or
party.
no?
No. This one is person or party.
Person.
Okay, so you both agree. Okay, and we're going to go into closing statements. So Jake, if you can throw it on 1 minute and 30 seconds. And we started this with Kathy, so Eric, you're going to start with your closing as soon as it hits 1:30, and you'll have exactly 90 seconds. And go.
All right, so thank you all for coming. Eric Moschino. Not a great order. What I am is a good man. I'm a man of my word. Now, Kathy's about to read you a resume of all these wonderful sounding things she's done. And I would like to throw in a few highlights ahead of this. Her constituents voted 57% against driver's licenses for illegals. And she's going to tell you, yes, this ended up on the ballot. She voted for it. Failed. She says she's for transparency. She votes against it every time. She voted for, she has poor constituent services. I mentioned what happened with Rep. Lenatra and Rep. Moratori, where the Kingston selectman calls him. She voted for MBTA housing at 4 a.m. on January 6th. No one wants this, which she would know if she wasn't so out of touch with the people of the 12th Plymouth district. When questioned about it, she refused to answer how she's helping her constituents here. When pressed on it, she actually blurted out that she's working on a bill with Rep. Moratori to overturn MBTA housing, which he confirmed is patently untrue. She actually lied to her constituents. Now, most of you small businesses, you're the millionaires. She voted for the millionaires tax, but she sits here and she tells you that she supports you. All these bad policies actually work against the American dream. It works against you. If you want accessibility, common sense, integrity, and to fight for the American dream, you got to go out and you got to vote for it.
Okay, thank you
Vote
very much.
Moschino.
Kathy, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds. As soon as you see it up there, you can go ahead and start. Jake?
It's getting there.
Count it up. Thank you. All righty, Kathy, go.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending and taking 3 hours out of your morning. I really appreciate seeing all your faces. It's been an honor to serve as your state rep of the 12th Plymouth District for the past 6 years. And I'm proud to have built positive, productive relationship with so many of my constituents and my small business owners, my local leaders, my advocacy groups, and my safety agencies. I've also gained valuable experience on Beacon Hill and have been appointed into leadership roles, including the Vice Chair of Healthcare Finance, as well as the Chair of the Coastal Caucus. Before being elected in this role, I was a small business owner. I know firsthand what it's like to build a business, face challenges, and sweat over making payroll. I remember that many, many weeks, and how to look out for employees like their family. I also spent years in public service, unlike my opponent. I was on the Board of Selectmen, Affordable Housing Trust, and the Recreation Commission for 12 years. I understand how local government works and how town and state government must work together to get the best results for our residents. I understand how much time this job demands. By no means is this a part-time gig. I live it and I breathe it. I remain committed to the responsibility as my first priority. I work across the table to tackle challenging issues like affordability, housing, economic development, climate change, and healthcare. I stand up for reproductive rights. Bottom line is, I love my job.
Thank you.
I love it because I love helping
Thank
people,
you.
and thank you for being here.
Thank you. All right. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both. Okay, we're going to go on to the next with the first Plymouth District, which is going to be Democrat Michelle Badger and Republican Jesse Brown. Michelle over here, Jesse over there. Jesse, you're over there. Okay. Are we ready? So this district here is, what is this district, people?
13 of the 18 precincts in
You have all of Plymouth except precincts 1, 2, 3, 5, and 13, correct?
correct.
Okay. I'm going to start you with the debate question where you can debate each other. So ask your opponent about their stance on something that you disagree with, and then we'll have a point counterpoint. Michelle, Badger comes before Brown. I did go to school. Okay, so Michelle, you will start. What is the subject you'd like to debate with Jesse?
I'd like to talk about climate. I think in a recent debate that we had, I think we both saw climate very differently. He may have kind of dismissed the need. We are 37 miles of coastline, and we are being hit. Climate change is real, and so I'd like to have that conversation.
So what specifically do you think your opponent does not agree with you on climate?
I don't think he actually believes it's important in our community. When we're on 37 miles of coastline, we impact the beauty of our region. We're impacting jobs, tourism, and recreation if we are not investing in our climate, if we're not making sure that we are...
Speak to those.
Oh, sorry.
You don't have to speak to me.
Sorry. If we're not making sure that we are mitigating the changes that are happening in our climate, if we're looking at our investing in the blue economy like Steve Cole and the Plymouth Foundation has done, and our fishing, making sure that our blue economy and that piece of not being impacted. We need to make sure that we're looking after our inland when we then say our rising temperatures we have is impacting our aquifer. We have the largest aquifer within the state, and we need to protect that. 20 pounds of PFAS in our waters is gonna change and make it undrinkable. And that's something we need to make sure that we are doing our best to make sure that we are keeping our water clean, we have a clean environment, that we continue to be the leaders. We have a couple of select board members in here, and Plymouth is a leader right now. We are the first community to do our Plymouth action, climate action plan, and if we can follow that plan, and we can be the leaders around here. We can make sure that Plymouth isn't just a place that talks the talk, but we walk the walk, and with a state rep in my position, I will do all that I can to fight and make sure they get the resources that they need to make sure that climate action plan is something that we can actually stand on and be leaders in the state of Massachusetts on.
Okay, Jesse?
I don't think there's one person in here that does not believe that you have a clean environment, including myself here. So to say that I disagree with you, I don't think that we really disagree on that at all. But there's not, again, I'm going to state this very vividly. There's not one person in here, if by a show of hands, that would agree that we don't want clean water, that we don't want a clean environment out here. So going on the blue economy, I think I've been stating the blue economy since the beginning of my campaign. I think it's one of the most important things, and I think we'll hit on that a little bit later. It's one of the most important things for Plymouth is the blue economy right now. We have, with the one thing I want to talk about the most is aquaculture. Aquaculture will be, it does two things right there. It builds our businesses, but also it will help with the environment where it cleans our water out there in the ocean. We also have, I've been a big advocate to stop sand mining. We have a project that's in our district going down in Cedarville where you always have a compromise of what you can do. So we have if anybody's heard about this project down there, they want to build a industrial park. So what we have, they just want to extract all the sand from there. By extracting all that sand, as Michelle stated, we have an aquifer there that, as the water is draining into it, it's not getting filtered as properly. There are compromises that we can make that we can still build there, but also have rolling land, so we don't extract that sand. So this is a part of a job of a state legislature to go up there and advocate for the constituents at all time, but also for the business community and also for the environment. And that's why I'm a huge advocate for the blue economy. I've stated it from day one, and we have to keep that going.
30 seconds?
Yeah, I would say though, but when we had a conversation in another format, you were basically were like, "Oh, we don't need to have this conversation today. This is not part of our conversation." So I as a state rep will make sure that
Did I say that?
You did. We were
We're
talking.
not going to have that conversation?
Well, you basically dismissed it actually when we were talking about plastic
That's
bottles.
your opinion.
Yeah. Plastic bottles and plastic bags. We all have our own opinion. And you said, "Oh, it's no point in talking about this." So I really do think plastic bottles, plastic bags, all those things impact our community, and we need to. I'm talking, please. We need to make sure that we are respectful of our environment.
Yes, and I agree with the aspect of with our environment and respect our environment. What she's speaking about is we were talking about nip bans.
No.
Now I'm speaking. We were talking about nip bans. I responded to that question. And then the next question after that went into plastic bottles. And what I said about plastic bottles, because we've already had a long discussion on the plastic bottles, and it was another one, I said if I'm going up to the State House and talking about plastic bottles, why there's families that are living, buying 4 days worth of food and trying to stretch it to 7 days, the priorities are mixed up right now. That's what I stated. It had nothing to do with the environment, it had to do with priorities. And the priorities are for the people that they are surviving. That's the priority.
Of course. Of course, we're all going to fight. But if we don't have an environment, if we don't have the water, we don't have the resources, that's also going to impact our families. And so that is an integral part. It's about every piece. It's like we do in school committee. When I'm on the school committee, I've been there for 13 years, we're looking at everything. We want to make sure that our students have mental health, that our students are being educated, that they can go home with food in their backpacks if they need it. It's about looking at every part, that we have solar on our buildings to make sure that we are doing our best to reduce the cost to our taxpayers, that we are using their money wisely. So it's about taking everything in and creating a picture and creating a life and making sure that everybody can stand up on someone else's shoulders.
Okay. Michelle, so you pick climate. Jesse, what subject would you like to debate with
We
Michelle?
already heard it. It's immigration
Okay.
and the migrant crisis that we have here in the state. If we're going back to what we said, what I will not bring up, but if we're going back to what we said in debates and why we disagree with it, you said migrants aren't illegal. So 100% they are, and the number of illegal migrants that we have in this state are 355,000, with 50,000 new arrivals coming in 2021. Now, we're going to hear this thing about TPS, temporary protected status. There's about 18,000 temporary protected status individuals right now. And one of that is, if nobody knows what that is right there, is to get that temporary protected status. Most of them are from Haiti, Ukraine. And the ones from Haiti right now, you get that because there's a conflict in their country. The Department of Homeland Security puts that in place. So with Haiti, it was the earthquake that happened. And we heard earlier, you are allowed work authorizations. That's one of the benefits of the TPS. They are allowed to work right away. But here what comes down to, this migrant crisis is a fiscal time bomb. It's going to bankrupt us as a state. We're spending over $1 billion just on housing, with other costs almost going for $3 billion a year. That's fiscally unsustainable for us. And then in 2026, because most of these new arrivals came in 2021, after 5 years, they're allowed to get benefits, no questions asked. So in 2026, these costs are going to shoot up. So the cost of housing is going to be minimal to these other costs that come in after the fact. We go into the other budgets where it really, really hurts us, which is actually the school system. There's over 25,000 illegal immigrants in our school system. It costs, right now, and this is coming from the Center of Immigration Studies, the cost for Massachusetts a year, the state spends $23,000 per student. They estimate each illegal immigrant is going to be $575 million per year. That's taken away from our students. And if they don't speak English, it's another 20% additional cost to that. We also have cost to our law enforcement, which is just, it comes down to the incarceration rates, where it's almost about 5% are illegal immigrants right now. So it's straining our corrections officers, it's straining our law enforcements, and we talk about our taxes, how we can't deplete, we have to properly fund our law enforcement at the same time. there's ways that we can mitigate these costs. We just pare back. Number one is, we heard it earlier, is you create a residency requirement on the right to shelter law. We heard we're the only state in the nation that actually has this. It's a very simple thing. It's a stroke of a pen that we can change this right away. It saves us $1 billion. We have to pare back, though, all the social services that we give the illegal immigrants.
Counterpoint.
Yep, I think we can all agree that we do have a migration crisis. It's a federal issue. There's not a lot that we can do on the state. We need comprehensive immigration reform. That, I don't think anybody in this room can say that we are doing it correctly. We need to make sure that our borders are more secured, that we are making sure that those who come here, though, are fairly welcomed, and we have a humane immigration system. That's the most important people. No human is illegal. I think that's important to mention. We all are where we are, and we are living and thriving where we are because of where we were lucky enough to be born, or we were lucky enough to have our family move here. So I think we need to put ourselves in those shoes. We could all be in that same situation in another country if something happened here. So we need to be humane. We need to make sure that, and I think, like you said, voters do deserve the truth, and most of our immigrants are here legally. They're here through the TPS, as you mentioned, and they're here through asylum seeking. And so those are the ones who are getting our assistance and our aid. And I think during our recent on WATD, you mentioned a bunch of crime stats. Did you all know, everyone in this room know that an immigrant that comes here is 47% less likely per capita to commit a crime while they're waiting for their cases to be heard. So that crime rate you're talking about, and I am all about making sure we fully fund our police. That we've had a great relationship in the schools with our police officers in Plymouth. We are so lucky. Our police, our fire, all of our first responders have done nothing but support the schools and make sure that everybody in the schools feels welcome, regardless of immigration status. And I also think, we're talking about housing, and that's an issue. We have 1.58 million homes were built in Massachusetts this year. 6% fewer than in 2007, with a growth of 11% since 2007. So that's another piece that's impacting a cost of living for everybody here. But we need to make sure that we can get those who are here able to work and work faster so that they can participate in all of your small businesses and your big businesses and make sure that our economy continues to thrive. And the comment you made about schools, yes, they are costing us money, but the state is giving towns additional funding to be able to afford that. And so it's not impacting our budgets directly like that.
30 seconds. Jesse?
There's 355 illegal immigrants here. Only 18,000 are here on temporary protected status. So there's over 300,000 illegal immigrants. So your statement is wrong that the majority of them here legally. That's 100% wrong. And to go on for the crime aspect, they're here illegally. So every one of those crimes, if we just had our laws and we enforced them, every single one of those crimes could have been prevented. Every single one. And that is the key right there, is prevention. Before a crime happened, prevention is what you want to do. And every law enforcement agency, that's why I'm endorsed by every single law enforcement agency, because they believe the same thing, from the state police to the Mass Corrections Officers Union to the Fraternal Order of Police. We are endorsed by every single one of those. So to say that it doesn't affect them, it 100% affects our public safety.
Okay, 30 seconds.
I don't ever think I said it affects our public safety. Our public safety officers in Plymouth, we need more funding for them, and we also need more, they just need more employees. They need to be able, the recruiting piece is the hard piece. I know that that's what they've struggled on. So I never said that was not, but also, they're not illegal, they're not committing that crime just by coming in. That crime is committed by the fact that we don't have good border protection. We don't have comprehensive immigration reform. And we had an opportunity to have that 4 or 5 months ago at the federal level. So we don't have that right now, and we just need to continue to do our best in the state of Massachusetts to make sure that we are doing our best for those who are in our.
Okay.
She specifically just said they're not doing anything wrong by coming into this country. It's illegal. We have the laws on the books. They're here illegally, 100%.
TPS, we have asylum. I'm not going to say that there isn't some who just got my
There's
family.
300.
My own family.
Okay.
My mother
My
my
own
mother.
family came
Okay.
across the border illegally, like my Nana's family.
We're going to
so-
agree that this is a really hot topic, a really,
Yes.
really, an issue that people really have very, very strong opinions about, and I don't hear a lot of solutions, but we will in the future. This is something you're going to have to address, whoever
Yeah.
gets elected to the office. Let's go on to another question. We're going to start with Jesse on this one. Small businesses obviously struggle with navigating regulatory environment. There's also a very high energy cost that affects small businesses. What policies could you implement to help lower energy costs or incentives for businesses to invest in energy efficient technologies, and how would you deal with the regulations that small businesses seem to think are really, really cutting them off?
Right, and we can pick any industry with any regulations we want, because every industry knows what the regulations that deter them from expanding their businesses. But one thing that a legislature can do up in the State House right now, just to help small businesses, is we have the gas and diesel tax. That is one of the most expensive costs for any businesses, besides obviously payroll, the major things. But something that a state representative can do to put forward is to decrease the gas and diesel tax. Everything that we buy today has to be shipped. And to decrease that, my proposal for that would be, right now, the state charges 24 cents per gallon for a gallon of gas and a gallon of diesel. We can probably knock down 8 cents off of that right now, down to approximately 16 cents if we want to, and still have the taxes. And again, nobody's saying up here we're going to get rid of taxes. We do need taxes, but we can cut and reduce taxes because we need to take away wasteful spending that the state does. And I can give you one example just for the wasteful spending aspect. The state of Massachusetts spends almost over $700,000 per mile of road, where our neighboring states, say New Hampshire, spends almost $250,000 for the same mile of road. We have to look at those things. That's just one example. There's a lot of redundancy and a lot of wasteful spending that we have up at the State House, and we need to reduce that, and that'll be my job up there when elected.
Okay, and the question was about small businesses struggling with navigating the costs of energy, which you are addressing with the gas tax, and also the regulations that they have to go up against. Michelle.
Yeah, for me, a big part of it would be having conversations with all of you. We've heard here today that part of the biggest part of the job is constituency services. So what can I do to help you? My plan is to meet with as many of you as possible and find out more about the issues that you face day to day. I'm not a small business owner. I don't know what that means. I don't know all the day-to-day that it means. I have friends who are small business owners. I know how difficult it can be, but I would work hand in hand with you to make sure that I can advocate on behalf of the things like we just heard earlier today, the credit card processing. I know personally, like as a nonprofit executive director, the fees that you pay really cut into what you're able to bring into your company, your business, for me, for donations, but for you, for your profit. And so when we're looking at that, how do we make sure that we're working together to see what we can do to help with that? Energy costs. Let's talk about how we can be more, we've got solar, we've got turbines, wind, we got offshore wind, that we need to make sure that we're tapping into and doing more. But how can I help you? That's going to be a conversation moving forward. The regulations, how do we take some of those regulations away? You all know the pieces that affect you most significantly, so let's have those conversations and let's see how we can move forward. That has always been what I've done on the school committee. If there's something that people have concerns and questions about, we sit down, we have a conversation. I give my cell phone out, and we figure out what we can do and what we can't do based on the current regulations or the current issues within that we are facing. So I'm here to be a helpful ear as well as an advocate for you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go on to the question about tourism, and we're going to start this one, I think, with Jesse. Talk about tourism. It's a big thing in Plymouth. It's a lot of people say it's our #1 industry. What can we do better? What haven't we done well? And what do you plan on doing specifically to support tourism?
It is the biggest driver in Plymouth is tourism. So the number one thing that I would like to do if elected is bring more money in because of the infrastructure aspect is the key right there. The roads, even the transportation to get around down there. We've had a lot of talks about putting a train in. I mean, I sat on the chamber for many years, so we talked about all different avenues to bring more people there. We heard Rep. Lenatra talk about a convention center, which I think is a good idea. The more businesses, the more people that we can bring downtown, the better off that our businesses are going to thrive down there. And it's the infrastructure aspect. The hotels are another huge driver. We need to have places to room people. I think I heard the average time frame that people stay down here are only like 8 hours, right around that time frame that within a weekend, and we need to keep people here longer than that. If we can get somebody down here for the weekend, but we need to entice them. So they're going to stay down there when there's convenience, and the convenience are going to be from the hotels, the transportation, ease of transportation, and the only way that we're going to get that from the state is that you're going to have legislators bring tourism money back into the town.
Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, for me, a big piece of it is just being an advocate. We've got different kinds of tourism that I think the Plymouth Foundation and See Plymouth and so many of the small businesses here, the Plymouth Chamber, have worked really hard to bring people into our community, working on ways to be creative, talking about that convention center. How can we get, that's going to get Monday through Thursday, that we don't have a huge tourism industry in. So how do we get back that $100,000 that was taken away from us this year to go towards See Plymouth? How do we get that back? That's important. We need an advocate. In fact, one of the committees I want to be on is the Joint Committee on Tourism, and that to me is important. That's what makes Plymouth what Plymouth is. We all know 1620, but we need people to move further down into our community and get involved in that ecotourism. We have so many wonderful things that make Plymouth great. We've got our water where you can go out and go on a whale watch. We've got trails that you can participate in, and so we need to tap into those resources, and that is what we learned about asset-based community development. So if we're going to do sustainable economic development in the town of Plymouth, which is one of my big things, because that's what we need to remove that tax burden off of our homeowners and putting into some bigger businesses, bring industry in here. We need to look at what we have. So we have a really great foundation of a tourism. We've See Plymouth and so many other organizations have done great things that we can build off of and be an advocate and make sure how we can bring people, not just to downtown Plymouth. Most of the First Plymouth District is not downtown Plymouth, is not built like that. We are woods, we are small businesses, we are coffee shops. How do we bring people into Red Brook that they have a new coffee shop there? How do we bring people to Cranberry Corner? How do we bring people into the Pine Hills and go to Book Love? How do we bring people into our businesses, not just to come and celebrate the Pilgrims and our Wampanoag Indigenous history, but to celebrate what Plymouth is right now and who we're gonna be in the future? And so that's my plan, is to really just advocate for what we're looking forward.
Okay, and I'll do a really quick follow-up that a lot of people are talking about is the MBTA station in Plymouth, and I'm going to give you like 30 seconds. How important do you think it is to fight to get that reopened, and do you think it's possible?
You talking the station?
Yeah, the T station in Plymouth.
Yeah, we got this question many times. I think for the amount of money that we pay the MBTA, and that 100% that it should be back open.
Okay, Michelle?
Yeah, I have the endorsement of the Teamsters Brotherhood of Locomotive and Engineer Operators, and I've got SMART. My biggest thing is we need to bring that train service back. We have people buy homes there because they were going to have train service, and I do think we have potential to do it. And if we need to put something in place like a shuttle from Plymouth to Kingston to start to get it back up, then we do that. But we have to think creatively in order to prove that we will have people using the Plymouth station.
Okay, and the odds that it's going to reopen?
I believe it will.
50-50.
Okay. All right. This is the question we have to answer just one word. When you're voting for someone, is the person more important or the party that they represent? Michelle?
Person.
Person.
Okay, you agree on that. Let's talk about the 3 ballot questions.
Okay.
Question number 1, yes or no, should the state auditor have the authority to audit the legislature? Jesse?
100%. If there was...
It was a yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, I'll let you comment in a second.
Yes.
Okay, question number 3, yes or no, should rideshare drivers have the option for joining a union for the purpose of collective bargaining?
Yes.
Jesse?
I'm going to say no.
Okay, and question 5, yes or no, should the minimum wage be increased for tipped workers over 5 years? Jesse?
100% no.
I
Michelle?
believe no, but I think
Nope,
this.
nope.
Oh, darn.
Okay. Yep. I'm going to let you, because you disagreed on the rideshare, I'll let you talk about that for a second. But again, let's stress that question number 5, if you just read the little thing here, it's like, oh, yes, why wouldn't we want to pay everybody a minimum wage? But if you ask the restaurant owners, if you ask the waitstaff, if you ask the bartenders, they will suffer. And think about this, as a small business owner, you have to budget your payroll. Imagine budgeting your payroll with all the people you have on and changing that direction to have to budget for a minimum wage versus what they make now. Granted, they make more with their tips. So I think you're all agreeing with that. Now, you disagreed on question 3.
I just want to say one thing on question 5. I think I've never seen so much involvement. So even with this ballot question being on, I think it brought so much more involvement to where actually we're getting this in our checks to where 86% of the people believe that the system works for them, 88% oppose a tip pool, and 90% believe that if tip wages were eliminated, employees would earn less. This is coming from, they have pins on, the signs are up in their restaurant. So this has been, even though it's detrimental to their wages, it's just so important, but it's bringing out the voters, which is actually the silver lining in this.
Okay, and you disagreed with Michelle on question 3, should rideshare drivers have the option to join union? You said no, you said yes. Can you just explain why no?
And the only reason why they're independent contractors, all it's going to end up doing is it's going to cost the state a lot of money because it's eventually going to get thrown out no matter what. It's been tried in other states and it doesn't work.
I just think that if you want an opportunity to unionize, you should be able to unionize. I don't understand why you would take that option from them. It's not making them unionize, it's giving them the option.
Okay.
But can I also speak on 5 since he spoke on 5 for quite a time?
Sure.
Okay. So for me, I think this is a perfect example of how I work as a school committee member, as I work my legislative mind, is making sure, when initially I thought, yes, I'm going to vote yes on 5 because I want to make sure that people have their Social Security, that they're getting paid long term. I've been at so many restaurants here and other places that, I had an older server who told me they have to work every day because they don't have the retirement. And so I thought, oh, this is a great solution. But I have had the opportunity to have conversations with my servers, with people at different places and at chamber events, and have been given the knowledge, and now I'm a no. And that's how I think about everything that I do on the school committee and other places, is bringing in the knowledge and making sure I know all the research.
Right,
So
I think everybody agrees that after you speak to people, what you initially might have thought about question 5 might change dramatically.
Yes, of
Okay,
course.
we're going to go on to closing statements. Jake, if you could set it for a minute 30. We started with Michelle, so we're going to have you, when it hits 1:30, just go ahead and make your closing statement. Jesse Brown. And go.
Thank you again to everyone for attending this morning, and a big thank you to the Plymouth Chamber of Commerce. I think we want to give Amy and her team a tremendous thank you for this, because this is always a tremendous thing that they do every year. It's been a privilege here to discuss the issues facing the residents of the First Plymouth District, and sitting here with Ms. Badger, that she's attending today, so thank you also. Again, my name is Jesse Brown, your Republican nominee to be your state representative in the First Plymouth District. I proudly served our country in the United States Marine Corps, and to all of our veterans out there, thank you for your service. Through hard work, my business partner and I created a successful telecommunications construction business that has kept people employed for almost 18 years. Co-founded a nonprofit that has helped countless veterans in need. I'm a proud father of a beautiful, independent 17-year-old daughter. I'm 47 years old and a 25-year resident of Plymouth, residing in our home in the Manomet area. I'm a member of the Marine Corps League and Veterans of Foreign Wars. I proudly sat on the executive board for many years of the Plymouth Chamber, and also was a prior member and appointed to the Massachusetts Labor and Workforce Development Board. I just want to be crystal clear to every voter that's out there. My commitment is to represent the interests of our residents and advocate tirelessly for the First Plymouth District. There are multiple issues that affect our community: affordability, sky-high cost of living, a migrant crisis that's unsustainable, lack of transparency in our state government. As your state representative, you will have a person that will be effective, focused, reliable, and will work on
Thank you.
solutions for the issues. I
Thank you very
respectfully
much.
ask for your vote. Thank you.
Go ahead. Oh, wait,
Wait.
when it hits 1:30. Yep,
I
sorry.
mean, I'll start now.
And Michelle Badger's closing statements, go.
All right. Thank you, Julie. Thank you to the Chamber and everyone here at the breakfast this morning. As your next state representative, I am dedicated to this as my full-time job. I learned a strong work ethic from my working union member parents. I'll work harder than anybody to bring back resources for this district. I have a true passion for service and a commitment and deep love of Plymouth. All that I do has always been in service to positively impact people. That's why I have been deeply involved in Plymouth for the last 15 years. In the last 13 years, I've had the privilege and honor to be on the school committee, and the last 2, your chair. I am committed to the people of the First Plymouth District, and that's why Team Badger has knocked on over 6,000 doors. We wanted to hear from you on your door what you're experiencing. I'm running to be your next state representative to make sure that everyone can remain and thrive in this district. During my time on the school committee, I've led important initiatives, built consensus and coalitions to accomplish goals with people of diverse thoughts and opinions, and I am committed to working across the aisle to represent everybody. I am running to be your voice. I will always listen and engage in conversations with you. If elected, it will be an honor to serve and advocate for the First Plymouth District. I am fully committed and understand the true time commitment that this job will entail. I cannot wait to work on behalf of and with all of you. You can find out more at badgerforplymouth.com, and I humbly ask for your support on or before November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, both candidates. And we are now going to welcome the 2 people who are running for State Senate for the Barnstable and Plymouth County. Democrat Dylan Fernandez and Republican Matt Muratori. Dylan over here and Matt over here. And if you don't, you can knock that out of the way if you don't want it. Okay. Yeah, you can just knock it out of the way. Sorry.
Do I get
For
a-
short people like
Do I get
me.
a? Do I get a?
Do you want one?
Kinda.
Huh?
Kinda.
Do you?
No, we're good.
You're
We're
kidding.
good.
Okay, you're kidding. Okay, so this is the only race that is for state senate. So I'm going to start again in alphabetical order. So it would be Fernandez before Muratori, and the question is going to be about being. What's the difference going to be? You've both been state representatives. What is going to be different about being a state senator? Go ahead.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for hosting. This is entertainment on a Friday morning, so it's good to be with you guys. I'm Dylan Fernandez. You know, there's the main difference is really just the size of the district. You go from 40,000 to 160,000 about. This district, I currently represent 9 towns, which is more than the number of towns in this district, even though it's bigger from a population perspective. There's 8 towns in the Plymouth and Barnstable district. You know, the other big part of this is the ability to get things done. That to me was a really motivating factor in running for this seat. In my time in the legislature, I've passed 30 bills into law, gotten some really big things done, but on the Senate level, you can get even more done and have a bigger impact. As someone in the majority, I'm the Democratic candidate, you're automatically a chair of a committee once you enter the Senate. And so that's a really important piece as well in terms of having power to be able to get things done, deliver for the people of Plymouth, deliver for the people of this greater area. And there's only 40 senators, right? And there's 160 House members. So you just have a larger voice. And in the Senate, a lot of things are decided in the Democratic caucus there. So as a member in the majority, that's where all the decisions will be made. That'll be really important to have a voice there going forward, especially when we think about the big issues impacting our communities going forward. We have to make sure we decommission Holtec in a really responsible way that meets public safety needs, meets public health needs. And then we have the biggest bridge infrastructure project in the United States right in the heart of this district, and decisions made in the Plymouth and Barnstable district in the next couple of years will decide our fate for the next century. So having someone with a seat at the table is going to be really important so that we have a voice in the legislature that can advocate for us, pass bills for us, bring back money for us, and have that really important seat to get things done.
Okay, Matt?
Yes.
Same question.
Yeah, thank you, Julie, and thank you to the chamber for putting this on. Appreciate that. Yeah, so we represent, as a Senate, will be 159,000 people. Right now, there are 40 precincts in these 8 towns. I represent 18. I'll be representing 18 of those right now. That includes the entire town of Plymouth. So I do only have one community, but in that one community, I've been able to pass 21 bills, been able to bring tens of millions of dollars into the town of Plymouth. For infrastructure, for tourism, for all sorts of things. The harbor, everything you see on the harbor front, everything you see in downtown Plymouth, the buildup over the years has because of the money we've been able to bring in to the town. And that's all by working together. And it's all about collaboration and working with everyone. And I'm known for that. I'm known for working with people, working across the aisle to get things done for our constituents. As you heard before, 90% of what we do is for our constituents. And that's what we do. That's what we do. We may vote differently on a lot of things, but when it comes to our constituents, particularly here in Plymouth, I've been a real advocate for the community. There's also been a couple of really strong bills that I've been a real big part of. The nursing home, many of you know I'm a nursing home administrator by trade, have been for many years now, and there was a major nursing home bill that was just passed in the House. And I'm proud to say that I was on the task force appointed by Governor Baker to be part of that task force back in 2019. We were able to make some major recommendations in 2020, right before COVID hit, and we were able to just pass that bill just recently. A lot of great reforms in that. So, you know, I hear my opponent always talk about, well, we need more Democrats in. I say the opposite. I think we need more Republicans in, because when you have two strong, healthy teams on a field, you come up with better ideas and better solutions. So I think by having more Republicans in the Senate, instead of having four Republicans out of 40, I think having more would be better.
Let me ask you to respond to that. Do you think having a more balanced representation of Democrats and Republicans at the State House would be a benefit?
So I think that, you know, we're in Massachusetts. This is a very Democratic state. There are 4 Republicans out of 40 in the state Senate. That's 10% going to 5. I don't know, I think it's around 12.5%. Do the math. That's still not balance. And so then you got to ask yourself, well, that's just adding one more doesn't put it in balance, but it depletes your voice, and having a voice at the table to get things done and be in the majority. And so there's a real distinction there that I think is important. The fights on Beacon Hill are not between Republicans and Democrats, because there's not enough Republicans to have a fight with, really. The fights on Beacon Hill are between what I view as our often overlooked areas, like the Plymouth district, like down on the Cape, and the big cities, which get a lot of resources, and they're heavily Democratic. And so, you know, those are the fights that we see. They're not necessarily partisan. It's rural versus city. It's coastal versus inland. And so, you know, if those are the battles, making sure you have someone with a seat at the table, really important. I'm the only person running who's passed statewide legislation. I commend Matt on his 21 bills. None of them are statewide. I've passed several pieces of statewide legislation. That's really important in being an advocate and a leader at the State House on some big environmental bills, which I'm happy to talk about. And then when it comes to bringing back money, you know, there's a huge difference here, and you can just go look at the Boston Globe report that came out. It's all public information, and you can search it today. This past legislative session, I brought back $935,000 in budget amendments. Matt brought back $75,000. So that's a big difference, right? And I ranked in the top 10. I was number 10, but still in the top 10, and bringing back money to my region. Matt ranked 137th of 160. And so, you know, I totally respect the need for a minority party. I think it's really important for democracy that we have it. But I also think that we are an area, and this is a district, that has such huge needs and has been often overlooked on some really big issues. And it's so important that we have a voice representing us that can get things done. You know, I worked very close. I know.
Okay, we're gonna let Matt do a counterpoint on that.
Yeah, let me think about that for a second. So it's great, Dylan, that you do a snapshot of 2 years, but you have to look at the last 10 years and what I've been able to do for this community and working with others. And that's what I'm known for, is working with people across the aisle, working to get things done. As I said, tens of millions of dollars came into just the town of Plymouth, one community, not 9 community, one community, to help the growth and what you've seen over the years in Plymouth and how it has grown. So I think it's taking a snapshot of 2 years is not the same as looking at 10 years and how effective you can be.
Okay, so let me ask you both the question. What is more important when it comes to voting, the person or the party? Dylan?
Oh, the person.
Matt?
Definitely the person.
Okay, so we agree on that. All right, let's do you get to debate your opponent on something you disagree with or have different perspectives on. We're going to start with Matt.
Sure. So I want to talk about question 5.
Okay.
Now, Dylan and I both agree on no, but in a recent interview, what you said, Dylan, was you would look to revisit that. Now, I think it's a strong hell no now, next year, 5 years, 10 years from now, because what I've done is I've actually met with folks at the Senior Center, the Cal in Plymouth, about a month ago. And I do these every other month. I meet with them and we talk about current topics. And we talked about the ballot questions. And when it got to question 5, it was very interesting. And I think, Julie, you said this. People there, and particularly the seniors, said, oh no, it's a great idea. Let's give the tip workers, minimum wage. They should get that. So then we started talking the opposite side of that. And how many people would then tip if they got minimum wage? About half the room said, oh no, there's no need to tip if you're giving a minimum wage. And that lies the problem. So from that point, I've actually gone to several restaurants throughout the district and had these forums to talk with not just owners, managers, but servers as well. And unanimously, they're all saying the same thing, is that they will lose their income. Their average hourly rate with tips right now is somewhere between $30 and $40 an hour. And if the minimum wage goes up, they will actually lose money and will be leaving the industry. Never mind the cost of the meals that will go up about 60 to 70%. They're just talking about the service. Now, my last point of this is that Washington, D.C. actually voted it down the first time around, but they revisited it, and it went into effect.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I agree. I agree with Matt. I think this is a really important issue for our district. We have, I worked in the restaurant industry. We have a lot of small restaurants that are the backbone of this area, and tourism especially is just a huge driver. And are we doing a tourism question? If not, I'll touch on it in this.
I'm not telling you.
Okay, sure.
Nice try.
Great, well. So look, I care a lot about our local small businesses and our restaurants and how impacted they'll be around this. And that is what drives our economy here. And I also have a lot of, I really want to help our wait staff too. And a lot of my friends work in this industry, and they are all opposed to this because they don't want to see their tips shrink. And a lot of times, especially on the Cape side, but also, certainly in Plymouth, you only have a few weeks to make the money that you need for the whole year in our seasonal economies. And so, having something that rolls back tips for people that really rely on it, very opposed to it. And then you also have to look at this in, the view of what's going on nationally with the presidential race. For the first time, we have a Republican presidential nominee and a Democratic presidential nominee, both saying they want to stop taxes on tips. It makes no sense for Massachusetts to pass this, especially in this environment, and put our workers behind at a time when this could pass nationally and other states right next to us would be able to attract workers. So for a number of reasons,
Okay,
I'm opposed to it.
so Matt, go ahead.
I just want to ask Dylan, would you revisit it, though? Because that was your comment that you made, that you would revisit it. You would like to revisit it, though.
I don't recall making that comment. If I did, I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. I'm not sure revisiting what part of it you're talking about, but anytime you make policy, I think you see where it goes, and if things need to be changed, you can make changes around it. Maybe that's what I was talking about, but I'm 100% voting no on this question, and I've put this out. I said this publicly in our first debate together. So if there's any nuance there, just be clear that I'm definitely a no on this, and have been on the record on that for a long time.
Okay, thank you. Now, Dylan, what subject would you like to debate with Matt?
Well, we can talk about, and we've talked about this before, but in preparation for this, really conservative Supreme Court striking down Roe v. Wade, in Massachusetts we passed the Roe Act, which really important piece of legislation that codified Roe in Massachusetts to make sure that when the Supreme Court made that decision, that women in Massachusetts were still able to access abortion care. We passed that, and thank God we did, because a few months later it got struck down. I voted for that legislation. Matt voted against the Roe Act, and had he and the people who voted against it been successful, when Roe fell, women would not have access to abortion in Massachusetts. And so I think this is a really important issue. I think this is, something that is really under threat in our country, and I think this coming election will determine how under threat it is. But I'm someone who's always going to support a woman's ability to make decisions about her own body. And so I think that's a legislative vote difference that we have.
Matt?
So I have 6 daughters. So, this is personal for our family as well, and we've had these type of conversations. And let me be clear, on Massachusetts, as Dylan has said, has clarified the Roe Act here in Massachusetts. So I'm not sure why we're still talking about it and why we're putting fear into young people, like my children, to say, well, why does he keep saying that, bringing up this issue? And I have to tell them it's just a national issue, but here in Massachusetts, we're good. We're good here. Matter of fact, I'll tell you why I didn't vote for the Roe Act in 2020. For the simple reason that it reduced it from the age of 18 to 16. And to give consent, to not have parents consent for health care from 18 to 16 is a problem for me. We have to be, as parents, giving consent for health care, for everything else. It should be for that as well. So that's the reason why I did. But more importantly, in 2022, when we did the SHIELD law, which gave every woman in the country the opportunity to come here in Massachusetts, because in their states, whether they're Texas or Mississippi or wherever they are, they couldn't get those protections. They could come here in Massachusetts, and I voted yes for that.
Okay. Then we will leave it at that. Let's go on to small businesses and the struggles they have between navigating regulatory environment, energy costs, credit card fees. Let's bundle them all together, and we'll start with you, Matt. What can you do and what will you do specifically to address some of the real critical issues for small businesses? Sure.
So many of you may know I am a small business owner. I've owned child daycare centers, co-owned them for 20 years, so I know how to do a payroll, know how to do, have the issues with taxes and the unemployment insurance and regular insurance, et cetera. So the small businesses are the backbone of our economy. and we really need to give them more tax incentives. I think one of the things we need to look at is the unemployment insurance. We need to look at and cut that back. I think there's, I think looking at the sales tax, cutting the sales tax back to 5%. And I think there's other specific, probably tax credits and other incentives that we can look at. But one of the things that we should be looking at is try to help them to get good employment as well. And I know you brought this up earlier, but one of the things that I'm on the commissions for the workforce disabilities. It's a permanent commission that I was assigned to several years ago. And one of the things we're looking at is getting folks with disabilities to start working in small businesses. Matter of fact, we have an annual conference next week at the State House on this. And I've been able to work with the ARC on this for a while now. And so I think we need to help get incentives, training money for businesses as well, small business particularly, to help with that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Same question?
Yeah, same question.
Well, there's a lot we can do for our small businesses. I grew up in a small business family. Mother, father, stepfather all own their own small business. Know how challenging it is. I mean, we have one of the highest LLC fees in the nation. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's something that really inhibits, especially entrepreneurship and small businesses from getting off the ground. We need to change that. I've been a co-sponsor of legislation to do that for a long time. When it comes to energy costs, we have this Mass Save program. It does some incredible things around residential energy savings, especially around heat pumps, solar, different types of insulation. It needs to be expanded in a much more meaningful way to help businesses. That's one thing that it doesn't do enough of right now, and it does incredible work. I imagine a lot of people here have done home energy audits and had some of that money come in. Really good work. When it comes to making sure that we get net zero and help businesses achieve energy goals and lower energy costs, we need to pivot the Mass Save program to also help small businesses. I think that's a hugely important thing. And another piece around helping small businesses, one of the number one issues that they raise to me is housing. I mean, so many people say they can't find employees because of lack of housing. And so we passed this Affordable Housing Act, the biggest housing bill in a generation, really important piece, especially around bringing back money to the towns and supporting people with rent payments, home ownership, veterans housing, other things. Distinction in the race, I supported the housing bill. Matt voted against the final bill. So I think housing is really, really important for us in terms of making sure that entrepreneurs, small business owners can have the workforce they need to grow.
Matt?
Yeah, two things, if I may. First of all, I voted for the housing bill in the House on June 5th. This past year, that was a very comprehensive housing bill. It's a very good bill. What I didn't vote for, what Dylan is talking about, at 4:30 in the morning on August 1st, when we were told that we're voting for the conference committee report, which is the differences between the House and the Senate, and we didn't even have a report to read. I wasn't going to vote for something I couldn't read. But once I've now read it and seen it, there's a lot of good things in there. Second point, one of the other things I think it's important for small business that we should be doing, and this is one thing I will be pushing, is I think we need to create a small business commission and actually hear from the business communities, the chambers especially, and look at specifically what you're talking about, Julie, is what are some of these burdens? What are the particular burdens that will really help small businesses, but balance the needs of the state for the taxes as well, but take away for small businesses so they can thrive, but also so we can create more new businesses as well to grow in the Commonwealth.
So let's piggyback on that for 1 second and talk about getting people that can do the jobs. So how do we train people? How do we educate people? How do we get more people into our community that can learn how to do jobs, whether they be plumbers, electricians, or tech people?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things to do and a lot of things that we've done. So if people aren't aware, we passed this past legislative session that people can go back to community college for free to get job training, to help them get into emerging industries, new industries. We also, we can clap for that. That's It is a good thing. And then, Mass Hire is doing some really wonderful things around this as well. We've funded Mass Hire at a higher level. And then when it comes to emerging tech for our community colleges, this is another thing we've really invested in. So now, if you want to get involved in the offshore wind industry, which is, a growing industry, has brought thousands of jobs to southeastern Massachusetts. And you go to Bristol Community College, you go to Cape Cod Community College. Now there are pathway programs that you can get licensing at the community college to get involved in the industry. And by the way, that's now free for them to do. And so people don't have to choose between crippling student debt for the rest of their life and a college degree or the job training that they need. So this has been a real bright spot. This is something we've really worked to invest in, and and it's new, so I don't know how much people are aware of it, but it's something that we need to get out there so that more people get involved in this job training opportunities that have just become available.
Workforce development. Matt?
Yeah, so I really look at the tech programs in the high school, and Plymouth South has a very excellent tech program. And, all our kids that went through it, and all our kids are, pick careers or where they want to go because of the tech program. And I think that's where we really need to start. I had a conversation with the Secretary of Education about this about a year or so ago. There's a lot of waiting lists for kids to go into the tech programs. And we need to figure out a way how to eliminate that waiting list by creating more tech programs in either the current schools or looking at creating more tech programs in various communities and strategically put them around, not just in Plymouth and the South Shore, but more closer together as well. So I think that's one of the bigger ways that we can help with with that. And again, I do want to go back to the disabilities community as well. It's a great training source for people. People can actually work. They're a great source of workforce for small businesses, and I think small businesses should start taking advantage of that because there are tax credits, there are training help that they will be given as well. So I think we need to tap into that as well.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask you each, no more than 1 minute, the NBTA station in Plymouth, will it reopen, and how will you help it to do so? Dylan?
Sure. Look, I know this has been a struggle for years. I'm going to be someone who advocates for it to reopen. I think you're sitting on an asset that is underused here, and the state needs to do a better job of recognizing that, opening it, and bringing the economic benefits to this region that come with it. I think it's crazy you're sitting on a station that they're refusing to open. And this is, again, I think why it's important to have, a strong voice in the legislature. I was the first person Maura Healey ever hired for her first ever political campaign. I know the governor very, very well. I think that can be an asset for this region in terms of, getting things done and delivering, and I think this has got to be one of those priorities.
Matt, NBTA station?
Well, for the town of Plymouth, it's been one of the #1 priorities for a long time now. The reason that those apartments were built in Cottage Park was from workforce grant money that we got back in 2014, 2015 to help build those apartments. The reason those apartments were put there, there's over 700 units there, was because of the train station. And we fought like heck to not have that train station closed during COVID because we knew, even though the schedule wasn't good, we knew that if it was closed, it'd be difficult to get open. And you talk about Governor Healey, we've had ongoing conversations with the administration, Kathy, myself, and Sue Moran, both Democrats as well. We've pretty much been told that, it's probably not going to open. The reality of it is not going to probably open. We are still going to fight like hell, and if you get elected, I hope you could do that. We're going to continue to do that as well if I'm elected. But the reality is it's probably not going to be, so we're trying to push okay, let's do transportation from there then. Let's get, GATRA there to help transfer it back and forth or something. But we do need that station open because, again, that's where everything was built there.
Okay, thank you. Before we do closing statements from these two candidates and bring up the candidates for county commissioner, I want to ask the audience a question here, just by a show of hands. For all of the things you've heard so far today, have you been given enough specifics? Do you think you really know specifically what all the candidates said they were going to do? Raise your hand if you think you've been given enough specifics.
Oh, I got a few over there.
Okay. So candidates, just take note.
Can I answer that?
You may answer that.
Let me answer that. So, we're one person being elected. So none of us can be up here and promising. And if somebody's promised you that they're going to do something, then they're not telling you the truth, because you have to be able to work with people. You can bring the ideas you have, and we've knocked close to 16,000 doors, and we got a lot of ideas that we're going to bring back. We're going to file legislation in January. But you have to be able to work with people to get things done, though.
Sure, I would just say, I've tried to be specific, but if you have questions, I'm really accessible. So my cell phone's right on my website. You go to dylanfernandez.com. There's a long list of different policy priorities that I have on there, long list of all the bills I've passed throughout the years, and my email and cell phone are right there. So just reach on out if you have a direct question. I'll hang out later too. I have cards on me. Please, reach out if there's a particular issue that's important to you. I'd love to know about it and love to know how I can help.
Okay, thank you. Could you set it for 2 minutes, Jake? We're going to have closing remarks, and then we're going to bring up the 3 candidates that are here for county commissioner. I'm going to go sit there. So you're each going to get a platform. Rhonda, you're the only girl, so you'll be in the middle. Okay? All right, Matt, when it hits 2, go ahead. Closing.
Great, thank you, Julie. Thank you, Chamber, again. This has been an opportunity of a lifetime to serve as a state rep here in Plymouth. I'm proud that all we've been able to accomplish together, working together for Plymouth, and now I want to bring these accomplishments to the other 7 communities in this district as well. I'm very proud of the fact that I've been a small business owner, still a small business owner, from childcare to elder care. I'm proud of the fact that my community involvement, I'm involved with the Chamber, I'm involved with the Plymouth Regional Economic Foundation, I'm involved with the Plymouth Youth Development Collaborative, the Sunrise Rotary Club, and the list goes on and on. So I'm proud of the community involvement that I brought to this job as well. I'm also proud of the municipal experience I've had as well. I've been on the Finance Committee in the town of Plymouth, vice chair for 2 years, from 2005 to 2010, and from 2010 to 2015, I was on the Board of Selectmen in Plymouth, 2 years as chair as well. So I bring a unique perspective to this position as not only as a state rep for 10 years, but also my municipal experience, my community involvement, and my professional experience. I can bring all this to be a state senator and work from day one with the relationships that I build across the aisle with everyone to be an effective leader. So there is a lot of work to do. There's a lot of issues that we need to work on, and I'm going to be hitting the ground running with that. So I respectfully ask for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dylan, as soon as that hits 2 minutes, you can start your closing.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Great. Well, thank you, Julie. Thank you, Matt, for being here and this fun debate. Thank you to the Chamber for hosting. I'm Dylan Fernandez. I'm a 4th-generation resident of our district. Family came over here from the Azores. They were strawberry farmers down on the Cape. We used to be the biggest exporter of strawberries in the country. Life was never easy for them. My father is one of 9. They grew up in really extreme poverty. Grandmother would pour out bathwater once a day for all the kids to bathe in. Like, level of poverty I never experienced, but really profound. My father, college was never an option for any of them. He started a small landscaping company, worked to see it grow, and witnessed the reward of his hard work when I went off to college, got an undergraduate degree in economics, a master's from Harvard Kennedy School in public administration, and I ran for office and got involved in public service to give back to the community and country and commonwealth that I love, and that's given me and my family so much. And I brought, that energy of public service to the legislature, passed 30 bills into law, brought reproductive care for women to our region, been a leader on preserving our environment and passing bills to protect clean water. I'm a proud local public school graduate from a small business family, so I know how important housing is and tax breaks are for local residents. And look, we need someone who can deliver for us. Decisions made in our district in the next few years will define our fate for the next century. Holtec, Cape Bridges, kind of chief among those, but so many other issues. And I was born here, raised here. I love our district. I think it's the most beautiful place on earth. And it would be the honor of my lifetime to be able to represent you in the state Senate. So I humbly ask
Thank
for
you.
your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to have the three people that are running for county commissioners please come up to the stage. And that's Democrat Rhonda Nyman, Republican Tony O'Brien, and Republican Jared Valenzola. I ask you to hang in there. I'm going to sit down there. It's 15, 20 minutes, and I think it's really important that we understand what people are doing in the county level. Please give the respect to these people. No, I'm going to sit down there. So, Ron, you go there. Jared, either place, Tony and Jared, thank you.
Is it better if I look tired?
Okay, I'm going to sit down here for this one. A lot of people, Christine James famously asks every time she has a forum, one of her lightning round questions is, county government stay or go? And this time, I believe everybody said stay. Is that correct? Almost? Okay.
Everyone says stay.
Everybody
Don't
says
believe her.
stay.
I
Okay,
keep
so we're going to
track.
talk about county government. There are 2 slots open and 4 people running for the position, and we know that Greg Hanley could not be here today. So according to the Plymouth County website, there's a whole bunch of different things that county government is responsible for. Things like the Registry of Deeds, the Water Commission, the Parking Department, which I'm not sure is still there, 4-H, the Mayflower Health Group, the Retirement Association, and OPEB, which is other post-employment benefits. So could you briefly explain what you know to be the purpose and responsibilities of the position of county commissioner within this framework? We're just going to start left to right. So Jared Valenzola, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Julie, and to everybody here at the Plymouth Area Chamber of Commerce, our fellow candidates, to Ms. Nyman and Mr. O'Brien. It really is a privilege to be here this morning. For the last 3.5 years, I've had the honor of serving as a county commissioner, in the last 1.5 years serving as chair. To answer your specific question, Julie, the parking department very much is still there. It's alive and doing incredibly well. We are proud of the programs and services we're able to provide at the county, and one of the things that separates county commissioners from some of the other candidates we've heard from is we are an executive branch. So when we are able to take votes, those actions do get put into effect. I've been able to work collectively and collaboratively with my 2 colleagues, as well as the county treasurer and the Register of Deeds, to continue to execute all the services and more that you've mentioned. The parking department came about in the 1980s when the Commonwealth passed one of their many unfunded mandates onto local municipalities. They took the processing of parking tickets out of the trial courts and put it into the individual municipalities' hands. That was an exorbitant cost to municipalities. In the 80s, they asked Plymouth County to band together and execute carrying out that program. Today, we've saved municipalities millions of dollars executing that as larger vendors have dropped them. All the other responsibilities you've mentioned are carried out by us, that and more, and I'm looking forward to discussing what we've been able to accomplish these last 3 years as a commissioner.
Okay, Rhonda, same question?
Yeah, thank you, everybody. And I guess you saved the best for last. Thank you for hanging in there. So I'll try to be as brief as I can today, but thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you to Jared and Tony O'Brien as well. So county government has long been a resource for communities with the county, while at the same time serving the Plymouth County Retirement Fund, which covers municipal employees throughout the county, offering a group insurance plan available to municipalities for their workers, and owner and operator of various county property throughout Plymouth County. County commissioners are elected officials, and they are the executive branch of Plymouth County. Their role is very similar to a select board in each town, except at a larger scale, they represent 26 towns in the city of Brockton. The Plymouth County Commissioners really, in a nutshell, they manage the operations and administrative duties of the county, including the personnel system and the annual budget.
Okay, thank you. Tony?
Hi, everybody. Excuse me. My name is Anthony O'Brien. You can get more information about my campaign on anthonyobrien.com. And appreciate the opportunity to talk about county government with you. I believe that the Water Commission is not part of county government. I take issue with words like exorbitant and incredibly well, et cetera, et cetera. The budget is available online. You can check it. the numbers are small. There's a small number of departments, and the departments are small in county government, except for the Register of Deeds. 9 out of 14 county governments were abolished in the 1990s. They do not have executive oversight like county commissioners who provide executive oversight for a Register of Deeds, because the Register of Deeds is an executive, which means the rest of the functions are still very small. You can go to the website and see all the departments that are on there. I also have an issue with county selectmen. I hear that a lot. And there's selectmen in the room, all right? The county selectmen. It's similar in this regard. Their primary job is to attend 1 to 2 meetings per month, okay? 1 to 2 meetings per month, and the salary is $33,000. That's their job. They don't work full-time, they're not working during the day. If they give you that impression, just like county selectmen, right? If they're doing another job. So if they give you that impression, it's a misrepresentation. And remember that selectmen in your towns, they attend 1 or 2 meetings or more per week. Their salary is $0. The county commissioners attend 1 or 2 meetings per month. Their salary is $33,000. I'm a former county commissioner. I didn't run for re-election 12 years ago because we had a couple toddlers. But I think there's some human resources people in the room that might question 1 or 2 meetings per month and a $33,000 salary. I'm familiar with human resources from my background, and it's wrong. When we were the county commissioners, it was $7,500 per year. Somehow in the last 12 years, it's gone up to $33,000. Now, Jared is a fellow Republican, okay? So as far as I'm concerned, this entire year, I've been talking about running with my fellow Republican. And my priority is replacing the incumbent, 12-year incumbent. Jared's brand new. He's been there 1 term. The 12-year incumbent is Greg Hanley. It's embarrassing and disrespectful that he's not here. His job as candidate is to attend these debates. He also did not attend the debate, the Democrat debate, in August. Okay? That's not there's a lot of themes in here, and you can pick up on them. Look, incumbents win 95% of the time. There's almost no accountability, okay, for incumbents. And by the way, those are the ones who are opposed, right? Most of them aren't opposed.
Okay,
all right, 95%.
The question was, what do you do?
What do you do what?
What does this job do?
And I'd like to add, I think
and
he's
I
taking more
co- and I
time than
covered
Ms.
some of
Nyman
that.
and I had combined.
Sure, okay.
Okay.
But the only accountability are challengers. That's me, I'm the Lone Ranger.
Okay, and I need to just say that Greg Hanley did contact us and apologize that he couldn't be here. He had a prior commitment. So just...
He should be, I appreciate that. He should be here. I was at a social event last night that he was at, so
Okay.
he's fine.
All right, we'll go on.
It was in Quincy at Granite Links. It was very nice.
Okay, so we're going to start this one with Rhonda. What is your #1 priority, and make it 1 sentence or 2, for Plymouth County if you're elected?
Increased transparency and accountability, and also in the areas of televising county commissioners' meetings. You know, county government has been around for over 300 years, and certainly in today's day, our select board meetings are televised every time we meet across the board. So that would be my #1 priority, is
Okay.
letting people know about county government.
Okay. Anthony, what's your #1 priority?
#1 priority would be restoring professionalism and transparency, like we've talked about. I agree with Rhonda with regards to the video issue. For 12 years, Hanley's 3 terms, okay, the worst and #1 joke in the county with regards to government is, who are they, what do they do, and why do they need them? Has that question been asked? It happens on the radio all the time. Has that question been asked for any of these other seats? No. Do your job and do it right, Mr. Hanley.
Thank you. Jared?
Thank you, Julie. When I was elected to the transparency question, the commissioners used to meet during the daytime hours. We made a move at my urging to have the commissioner meetings meet at night. We are now videotaping our meetings, and I am intending on distributing those. Just to clarify, select board meetings, which I agree they should be publicized and recorded. I had reached out to multiple agencies to record us. I was told, if you record it, we'll broadcast it. And so we are now with the technology that we've been able to purchase over the years. We've been able to purchase that, and we will intend to increase that transparency. But we do meet in the nighttime hours now, and as chair for the last 2 years, I have resisted any and all attempts to have us meet during the day to at least avail most people who work a normal 9 to 5 to be there. To answer your question, my goal is to continue to foster collaboration. I've been proud in my first term to launch 2 really integral programs in Plymouth County, Mobile Integrated Health, which is a pilot program, and we are working with multiple agencies to create a food security council, which will address food insecurity across the county. We're collaborating with the Sheriff's Department, Old Colony Planning Council, the Town of Plymouth, and a handful of other agencies. And I've been proud of the fact that I've been able to build those relationships by going to more than 2 meetings per month. I've attended hundreds of meetings where I've been able to build relationships and coalitions with multiple members of the boards of selectmen across the county to then be able to bring those people to the table and to be able to execute those types of programs. That's what the county is doing. I wish more folks would pay attention to what we do. Unfortunately, we can't force people to pay attention to what we do, but what we're doing is really important work. And as I said to Christine when I was running 4 years ago, not only is it my goal county government should stay, but it is also to make sure she never has to ask that question again. And I am confident now that every candidate has said county government should stay, that we've answered that question with a resounding yes.
Okay. Next-
Julie, do I have a chance to respond to Commissioner Valazzo? No.
Real quick.
Okay, yeah, so just to the meeting piece, Commissioner, I was at that meeting when Greg Hanley asked if the board would take a vote and supply the meetings to be televised. It was my understanding that you said you were the only person that would allow that to happen. They might be taking place, you might be televising those meetings, but it was up to you whether they would be released for public view. So I think that question, people won't be asking what the Plymouth County Commissioners are doing if they could at least have their meetings televised for people that maybe have disabilities that can't get to a meeting. They would be able to access it at home and online. So maybe you can respond to that.
Yeah, happy to. I'll be very brief.
quick.
What I said to clarify, Ms. Nyman, was that it was not necessary for the board to vote, that it is the discretion of the chair, and I use that discretion instead of having a formal vote to begin recording them. Now, not to speak for Commissioner Hanley, but it is in our minutes. His intention was only to record them for minutes purposes. It is my intention to record them to then be placed on at least our YouTube channel, and should the local scene or Abington Cam or any other local broadcast want it, from Hull to Mattapoisett and everywhere in between, we're happy to supply it. But we are working on that. We're a small staff. As Mr. O'Brien pointed out, we have a very small staff, a very small budget, and they do a wonderful job. But they are putting 5 pounds of stuff into 2-pound bags. So
Okay.
we're working very hard to increase that transparency.
Thank you. Okay, I have to go on to the next question. I'm going to start with Anthony. How is county government funded? And you really can answer that in one sentence.
Really? Well, here's the budget,
How are you funded?
about a half-inch thick. Let's go through it. Primarily, number one, from the Registry of Deeds. Okay, that's number one. That's about a third of the budget, maybe a little more. Courthouse rent, town assessments, that's your money. What else? The Mayflower Health Group. I've also got the municipal procurement program. What else? Jared mentioned the parking department. Some federal grants. Some rent from cell towers on property from, the woodlot. Other rents from the farm, the Registry of Deeds, the dredge is almost nothing.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay, so you went through the budget. Do either of you disagree with that's how it is funded? You want to add anything?
No, I don't disagree. No.
You want to add anything?
No, the only thing I will add is the Registry of Deeds formula. We collect, for every $1 we collect, 10 cents stays with the county, 90 cents goes to the Commonwealth. We've asked for modest increases. I know there are many select board members in the room that have asked the county to try and help take on more, and I know Ms. Nyman and Ms. Coletta and others have been a part of our working groups where some ideas are starting to be fleshed out, but we do need that funding to do it, so we've asked for an increase in that. To the procurement end, again, another service the county provides. I like to say we do the unfun stuff of government, and we really do. Procurement's not fun, but a lot of our small municipalities can't afford to have a chief procurement officer. Plymouth County does procurement for smaller communities and in the onset fire district. So those are, and we do charge a nominal fee, but it's certainly smaller than what it would cost a community of those sizes to have full-time employees. So we are covering all that. Mr. O'Brien did cover our funding sources accurately. Our funding sources go up and down based on real estate transactions. Certainly, we were in a boom a couple of years ago. Right now, we're in a little bit of a valley, but we are certainly cognizant of that budget, and that's why we're really proud of what our staff and team are able to do to execute all of the services that our communities and our constituents need us to execute.
Okay, I'm going to ask you about what land does the Plymouth County actually own? Now, you referenced rent from the woodlot and rent from the farm. What other land do you own? How long are those leases? How much money do you bring in from those, et cetera? Let's start with you, Rhonda.
So that's a great point, Julie. That's something that I would like to advocate if I'm elected to the commission. Certainly, there is no there is nothing on the website of what Plymouth County owns for property. Of course, we know the farm. We know that there's a lot of available properties, the woodlot that they talk about. The county owns over by the sheriff's office. There's a half-built building over there. So they do own certain properties that we know, but I'm sure there's more. And what I'd like to see is that be put to their website so people might be able to take a look and see what's available across the county. And maybe we could get developers or people to come in and help, support that effort.
Jared?
Yeah, so we own the tract of land that starts with our administration building through to the county farm. All of that is one piece, with the exception of the I'm blanking on the real estate term that allows the driveway into the back entrance of Beth Israel. Thank you, easement, thank you. And I work in real estate professionally. You think that would have come easily. So with the exception of that easement, we do own, as Ms. Nyman pointed out, the land near the Sheriff's Department. We also own another piece of land in the town of Bridgewater that is near the Bridgewater Jail. To be candid, those are the only two parcels, as well as the woodlot, those three parcels. We do own handfuls of property all over the county. Most of it is wet, it's deed restricted, or it's inaccessible. As a matter of fact, in the town of Hanover, we were proud to, I think, cede a piece of that land to one of their rail trail projects, or one of their trail projects. So the county has land all over. I certainly support Ms. Nyman's idea to place that on the website. Candidly, I was unaware it wasn't, so I'm happy to do that. But we are collecting. We do have an agreement with a developer to explore the Plymouth County woodlot. I know that there are some folks in the room who may recall that horse racing was part of that. That has been taken off the table. We heard from Plymouth residents, we heard from folks across the county, and we were able to remove that because we are open and accessible. We had public hearings. We've had those conversations with people. So we do collect rent on that. And with the County Sheriff's Office, we are proud to have extended our partnership with the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department to continue to support the work that he's doing there, but also the work our 4-H department does there to continue to foster agricultural growth in Plymouth County and instill that in students and keep that collaboration working with the Sheriff's Department.
Okay, thank you. Anthony, on the land?
Wow, so much. The administrator and the treasurer does the large, 90+%, the large majority of the work of Plymouth County government. On the point of the property, it's not directly, it's not a bad idea, listing all the property. It's not a lot. All right, this is the smallest government office run by elected officials in at least the state. 58 employees, so the budget says, and a $12 million budget, which has increased at least $2 million since I was commissioner 12 years ago. With regards to the woodlot's a little bit of a problem because it wasn't handled well, and again, focusing on 12-year incumbent Commissioner Hanley, it wasn't handled well because the folks in Plymouth, both government, business, and citizens, came to the meeting and wanted to speak. They weren't allowed to speak on the issue. They don't want development on the woodlot. Okay, I've talked to leaders in the town, okay, that I know so well, and what they're looking for is open space on there, and except for maybe a couple of municipal projects. Okay, maybe a firefighter training site in a corner or something else, maybe some playgrounds, but they don't want development there. They don't want the horse track, they don't want the racetrack, they don't want the casinos, they don't want any of that stuff. And the commissioners, there's been a little bit of ambiguity about this. I would ask, and by the way, the priority seems to be not the interests of the residents of Plymouth in that neighborhood. The priority seems to be revenue for county government. I would ask that the commissioners go back to the developer. They have a lease with them now. They're getting money from them now. They're supposed to be putting together a plan. We should put a committee together in Plymouth of the folks, elected officials, et cetera, and do what the best interests of the town of Plymouth are. It is the Shire town. It is our host town. It's where our headquarters is. It's America's hometown. And I would ask that the commissioners immediately rescind that lease. And with the plan I'm talking about, go back to the folks and do that property properly and respectfully.
Okay, so if you can set the timer to a minute each, you can each have a minute, only a minute, to say why you should be. There's two people can be elected. There's 2 slots open, and there's actually 4 of you running. So why, in 1 minute, you should be the one that people vote for county commissioner. And we're going to start with Tony.
So many issues. Stay or go, that was decided by the Charter Commission. Check it off your list. Let's see, problems, registry of deeds, Jared mentioned that. We're supposed to be getting 40%, we're only getting 10%. That's obviously a leadership problem. Mr. Hanley, listen to his radio ad that's on radio right now. He talks about structural deficits. He doesn't know what structural deficits are, apparently, okay? And that calls question to his competency. Every year, our budget is certified by the Department of Revenue, and it's an insult for him to say that it's not a structural deficit. He also claims in his radio ad that he saved the county government. One person saved the county government. Really? When I was there, and I know it's still true now, we're a team. We work together. Administrator, county commissioners, and the treasurer, especially the advisory board, and so that's a problem. Also, he was the Holbrook Town administrator last 2 years. Last year, he was let go by them, okay, under questionable circumstances. If he's not qualified to be a town administrator,
Okay,
why is he
thank you.
supervising a county
Thank you.
administrator? He's disqualified.
Rhonda, you have 1 minute. Why should people vote for you?
Okay, thank you. I'll be brief. So basically, I just have the private and public sector experience working as a chief financial officer for my family's welding and engineering firm for over 26 years in Hanover. I have state, local, and county experience. As a former state representative and current member of the select board in my hometown of Hanover, and I am an appointed member of the Plymouth County Advisory Board. I obviously have the unique ability to work across the aisle and bring Democrats and Republicans together, as I do as my role at the Plymouth County Sheriff's Office for over the past 9 years. So I think my experience and my passion for public service suits me best for the role for the next county commissioner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And set it for 1 minute once again. Go.
Thank you, Julie. And again, thanks to everybody for being here this morning, to my fellow candidates on stage and in the audience. Again, my name is Jared Valenzola, and I've been proud and honored to be a county commissioner for the last 4 years. I'm passionate about county government. I'm a graduate of Sacred Heart High School in Kingston. I think the last time I was in this room was for my junior prom. I went to Massasoit Community College in Brockton and a graduate of Bridgewater State. I love Plymouth County, and I love all that we can do. I'm honored to have the support of over 40 elected officials in Plymouth County. Those are Republicans, Democrats, and unenrolleds, because we've been able to, in the last 4 years, work hard and work collaboratively to bring services to bear for the people of Plymouth County, and those municipalities and those municipal leaders are recognizing that work. You can learn more about me at votevalenzola.com. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I will stick around. I work professionally in sales, so thankfully I do have some flexibility to stick around. But again, thank you to Julie and the Plymouth Area Chamber for a wonderful morning, and I ask that you please vote for me on or before November 5th.
Thank you. And thanks you to all the candidates. And thank you all so much for a very long morning. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you.